yearn for horizons unexplored, for fellowship and purpose, for a cause worth dying for. To you, we can promise magic.
Well, well, well. Hello, everybody. Oh, no. Hold on. I was going to do something. Wow, this is so rushed. Hold on. Wait. Pretend I didn't say anything, okay? Ready? Well, hello, everybody. How's it going? All right. Hopefully that came through. I was trying to blow my mic out. I was trying to make it sound very loud and crunchy. I don't know whether I quite got there. Yeah, hello guys. What an intro that is. What an intro that is from Mr. Modius there. Mr. Modius is like firing on all cylinders. He makes me look 100% more professional and sleek and like well connected than I actually am. Oh, by the look of chat, it looks like that did work. Okay, good. That did work. Look, yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, thank you to Mr. Modius for the new intro. You'll notice he's been a bit sneaky there. My old intro was 5 minutes to allow me to, decompress from my stressful life. And it never had a strict countdown. He's put a strict countdown on this next one. I got 3 minutes. Chop, get going. Otherwise, I'll be late. I'm now on that. I now can't let it flow onto the countdown again. I'm sure inevitably we will do that. I was just talking to him about it. It looks really good, doesn't it? It's incredible. I wonder if we can get like the little login screen element back, just because I love the idea of over the next 18 months, people asking me, whoa, WP, how have you got the client already? How are you logging in already? I've always secretly loved those little moments where people would ask me, how did you get the old login screen back? So yeah, there might be another edition. I don't know. He's put... There's a lot of great things in that. In the background, you can hear like the ambient noise that was in the trailer, the bit with the little birds and bees and things, I think. The bird song. We don't actually have much music from Guild Wars 3 yet. So the second song there is actually from Secrets of the Obscure. And I made a bit of a noob of myself yesterday. Because I, in the live chat, ArenaNet themselves played that song in conjunction with the Guild Wars. Yeah, I mean, look, the stream yesterday wasn't technically about Guild Wars 3. It wasn't supposed to be about Guild Wars 3, but it kind of was in part. So, it came up, and there were people in chat constantly asking about Guild Wars 3 that were never going to get their questions answered because, hey, it's the wrong format. But anyway, they ended it with some Secrets of the Obscure music, and I think that's the same thing Mr. Modius has picked there. Kind of very high fantasy, whimsical... Which fits, it fits for Secrets of the Obscure as well. Talking about how many years ago they might have started working on Guild Wars 3, it's funny to think if they were going for this high fantasy vibe, they kind of immediately started sowing the seeds with the Wizard's Tower. People always talked about that, like, oh, that's the Hogwarts expansion, that's the, the high whimsy, wizardy sort of thing, and then we've got more of that vibe coming along now. So I don't know. But yeah, it's really, really good. I love it. I don't know whether chaining from that countdown into the regular intro is a good idea or what. But I'll just see how I go with that. So yeah, what are we doing today? Well, there was the stream. I want to talk about the stream a lot. I was going to do a bunch more. So here, if I turn this on, you guys should see. Here you go. This is a copy. I just want to be totally clear here. This is from someone called Achilles Melee. And everyone is loving this guy. Why are they loving this guy for rehosting it? Well, 2 reasons. One, ArenaNet themselves haven't hosted their own stream on YouTube yet. In fact, they only streamed this on Twitch yesterday. Am I wrong? Did they just turn it off somewhere? I only saw it on Twitch. And it's not in their live tab on their own YouTube channel. So it wasn't being hosted on YouTube until this guy came along. But quite rightly, what he's also done is he's fixed the audio. Because elephant in the room. I guess let's get into this here, and it's pretty sad. All right. It wasn't very good. It was a bit disappointing. I know I was personally really let down, monumentally let down by this. You expect professionalism, and we turn the stream on, and I realised they've not been professional. So So what's happened is, you guys will know, I have a special guest that appears on my show very, very regularly. Over the years, they've been on a lot, and then they've been on less, and they've been on a lot, kind of depending on my mood and how much I want to platform them. You've seen them in pretty much every single stream I've done recently. And I thought they were loyal to me. I thought that we had an unspoken and unwritten contract that they'd only collab with me, that they'd only work with me. It's not like Boots going off to do the Lightbringers or whatever. I really thought I had an ally there. And what do I see? I watch that stream, and what special guest do I see that they have on their show? Debbie Downer. Debbie Downer shows up on the official Guild Wars 2 stream, and I'm sitting here thinking, what? With my dick in my hands? What are you doing? Yeah. That was a nice little moment, wasn't it? There was for people who haven't seen it, there was a moment where Colin said, "Oh, I hate to be the Debbie Downer here." So why was Debbie on the show? Because, and I like this. Look, I just to stop clowning around for a second. I really like the show. Grouch in particular really warmed on me immeasurably on that show. Everything they said felt very accurate. It felt like they perfectly understood like the state of play, as it were. Like people are cynical about format shifts and changes with Guild Wars. And, I think there's a lot of arguments out there to say, well, get over it. It was years ago that we were struggling with Season 3, or it was years ago we were struggling with Season 2, or it was years ago we were struggling with Season 1. We want to experiment again. I think there are actual arguments for that. But no, these guys are like, they're sort of holding themselves to that long memory that the nerds have. And, Grouch listed it all out. He said, so the big news really here was that there are expansions. We did a big conversation about it. Guild Wars 2, this game right here, right now, is getting more expansions. They're going to do these next 18 months or so supporting the release of Guild Wars 3 and long-term development for Guild Wars 2, system stuff, a new map, a new World vs. World Borderlands, the Hall of Monuments, all that shit. But they are going back to expansions after that. And that was really cool to hear spoken about in plain English. And I don't know, it sounds like an honest communication flub. The we nerds looked into it a lot because we're all cynical. But I really don't think at this point now that they were being corporate about it or whatever. My argument was, you don't write these press releases flippantly. You think about every word and you phrase everything very carefully. So on those grounds, I thought it does seem like they're being cagey. In fact, it seemed like they were being doubly cagey because the Discord clarification also seemed to be that way. But I'm happy to say I'll eat the humble pie. They weren't being weird and evasive. They are going to do more expansions. So that was kind of the big news there. And yeah, just a lot of it came out very well. So okay. So a little bit about me, IRL. I've had a horrible day. I'm not fishing for sympathy or whatever the fuck, but obviously, I've had this house fire, and I've had emails to send, and there's just been a lot of annoying stuff. I was going through a lot of stuff with banking today, and the whole time I've had a yappy, anxiety-addled dog screaming and barking every 70 seconds or so. Have you guys ever tried to do something like that where you're really trying to commit to something? You've got to be very careful. And there's something just constantly jumping up at you, nipping at your clothes, barking, whining, crying. Give me the ball. Go, throw the ball. Oh, play with me. Jumping up, climbing on the desk, walking on the keyboard. Scared it's going to poo, scared it's going to wee. Oh my, I love the dog. I really do love the dog, but it's so... And I'm getting, pretty stressed out at this point. It's been, nearly 2 weeks straight. And now that I'm trying to juggle a lot of other stuff, it's like, oh my... God. So anyway, I finally put the dog down. It's 10 p.m. I finished all that other stuff. But what that does mean is today I wanted to get a bunch of cool comments to go through with you guys. I don't really have anything planned here. I just want to talk generally about the live stream. Last night I did watch it live. I watched it with you guys in the Spud Discord. We chatted about it. I was also in the live chat. You might have seen my message. I was rather amused to see that they had 2 speakers. Oh, I can show it to you. Look at this. You know what I was wondering the whole time? I was wondering who was going to get that middle bottle of water. Look at that right there. They gave them 3 bottles of water. Sorry, not a bottle of water, but bottles of water. And for my American friends out there that pronounce T's as D's. And I was like, who's going to get it? What is this? And it became very clear after about 10 minutes, Josh was drinking way more than Colin. If you put a wager on it that Colin would have the bottle, you were shit out of luck pretty early. You know, it's like going to watch dog racing. What do I know about dog racing? And you see your favourite is way behind. Yeah, and he ended up taking the middle bottle. I was like tracking that in chat there a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. It was okay. Am I going to watch the whole thing here on stream with you guys? Do we really need to? What I think is a better idea is just going for the highlights. So over here we have Danatan 5, who has got like the cliff notes. He's got the bullet points. So we might look at this. I do think just for funsies, I will give you guys a little taste. For those who never heard this, I'll give you a little taste of the audio. Now this is normalized. This guy's gone on and he's tried to make the volumes consistent at least. I wonder if they timestamp. They actually had to start it over after a little bit.
Off your hoodie.
Move it off my hoodie. Where's it going?
Yeah, your hoodie, it's really, really low. It's not getting close to your mouth.
Oh, you want to go higher?
Yeah.
You hear the clipping? You hear how fucking deep fried this is? This is some... I love it, man. I love how awkwardly they have to sit there and they're like, oh, shit. Oh, I love stuff like this. Do you know what I think is the most fun thing to watch? What I was thoroughly entertained by? It's not the two guys on screen. It was possibly this guy. I don't know who this is. Or just imagining the crew sweating and panicking and freaking out behind the camera to the point that eventually they actually had to speak up and they had to say, look, we've got to stop it. Oh man, just the chaos of being on the production crew there.
So that's what we're doing.
But yeah, the audio was swinging up and it was going down and it was swinging. You know what? I'm old enough to remember when they were doing the. I think I'm getting this right. Wasn't it points of interest? Colin looks pissed at the crew. I don't think he looked pissed at the crew. I did find it funny when they were told to look directly at the camera. And then they looked at the wrong camera. A camera that we in the audience didn't even know existed because they never cut to it anyway. As far as I can make out. Did they cut to it? So they clearly had something on the set there that they weren't even using that did nothing but complicate the procedure. I liked that. I also liked when the audio was okay and people in chat kept screaming, fix the audio. Or like people started getting upset about them turning their heads. Those people were just poking the beehive. There was nothing wrong at that point. It was the most minor difference if they turned their heads. You could not hear it, right? The lapel mic was fine. It was working out. But there were these people that were just like encouraging the production crew to keep messing with the microphones even after we'd found something of a status quo and something of a balance. I found that hilarious too. Like, I believe those people have to have been trolling. And then, of course, they get told, oh, you don't talk to each other. They had a nice conversational style going on. You don't have to sit there awkwardly staring at down the lens. Just chat with each other. There's nothing wrong with them looking at each other. And all of a sudden, they're being told, no, no, no. Look into the camera. And they pick the wrong camera. I should have spoken up in stream. They would have taken notice of my declaration. Chat was moving pretty fast. They had like... They didn't have as many views as I wanted them to have, to be honest, and I always feel that way. 8K? What the fuck is that, man? But, you know, whatever. What was nice was they had 8K views, and it didn't really drop the entire stream. Those of us nerds that were there to watch this, we watched it the whole way. It was an hour and a half of juicy, good stuff. And yeah, highly entertaining.
What we're here to talk about today. A lot more information to share on all this stuff in the coming months and whatnot.
Well, like even that's overcompressed. I mean, who am I to speak? I've got my I forever hate my own mic. Bog also came into chat to tell people to put a lid on the save the char comments. Yeah, that was another thing that I found very interesting. I thought it was quite curious that there were huge amounts of messages, and I've seen a couple of them already over the past few days. There were a crazy amount of messages of people saying, where is the Portuguese translation for Guild Wars 3? Now, I've seen this a few times in recent years where a game is fine. They've never told a certain community that they're going to have a translation. There's never been any suggestion for it. But then they'll like go and review bomb the shit out of it on Steam or something, or they get really, really, really fucking antsy about it. And I don't know. Is that what's going on with Portuguese as a translation at the moment? People seem to be quite furious about it. Oh, hey Sean, it's good to see you, dude. Sean, you'll see in chat there is a very rare example of a moderator in my chat. I only have 2 moderators. Sean is also the one moderator of the WoodenPotatoes subreddit. He set up all the graphics and things there, and I still don't know how that shit works. Yeah, so there were just constantly people saying, and again, it wasn't really a Guild Wars 3 communication stream. It was a supplement to the Saturday information about the studio, and so it was basically, you know. Supposed to be about the earlier games, but people would not shut up about a Portuguese translation to the point that Bog actually put a little pin saying, please stop talking about that. Which, I don't know whether that was a good idea. Did it really help? Maybe it did. But yeah, okay, so yeah, on today's video, I'm just going to go over a couple of comments from you guys, the few that I was able to scramble together, and then we'll do a commentary on just the big ticket items from the live stream. That's about it. That's about all I've got for you. I just wanted to continue being here and being present and, you know, doing streams and discussing Guild Wars 3. And particularly for those of you guys who have made it live, you know, if you've got questions and things, I can bounce off of you guys. But so let's just see here real quick. Image slideshow. Oh yeah, first of all, we were talking about having a penguin persona. So Venny, I think it was Venny, right? God, I feel bad. I'm pretty sure it was Venny who did like the amazing reflect packs and stuff. Started doing fan art of a penguin Tengu. Look how sick that is. This is officially the first GW3 bit of fan art that we've got. Oh my god. And then I was like, no, it's not good because it's not a duck. And now it's going in the bin. But how good is that? I love the idea of a penguin Tengu. We didn't really see those in EOD, did we? I don't think so. Oh, that thing from Robert, I'm going to talk about later. Oh, here's just a little thing. This is not a comment from you guys. Here's just a little mistake I made. I was talking about the interregnum the other day. The banning of religion as a punishment across all of the UK. We were talking about it from like a world building standpoint. I fucked up. Look, this is the thing. I'm not a real academic. I'm an armchair academic. What does that mean? That means I don't know what I'm talking about. That means I use the wrong terms. It wasn't, and nobody called me out on this. All right, I'm calling myself out on this. It wasn't the interregnum. The interregnum basically could be any number of things over any number of European states. It's just basically a period of time between two, you know, two monarchs or whatever, to aspects of state. No. The word I was actually looking for was the interdict, which also is kind of just a generic word. I was talking about the papal interdict. That's what I was talking about. Similar words, but different. So I just wanted to set the record straight there for anyone who was actually trying to Google that. And I had a couple of people say to me, wow, that's really interesting. I'm going to go read. You probably wouldn't have Googled the right thing. But no, it was the papal interdict. That was the right word. Moving on to be a little bit less nerdy. Other questions? Pumpkey TTV says the round symbol in the middle of the tapestry looks a lot kind of like the heart of the obscure. Yeah, this is just a big conversation talking point. What do you guys think about this live at the moment that I have missed over the recent videos? I don't know if I see it, to be honest. I don't know if I agree. How can I get it up? That's what he said. Becomes a real problem as you get older, everybody. How can I get it up? Let's see. I'm going to show you guys the... well, let's just watch the trailer, I guess. Fuck it. Resources. Game resources. Guild Wars 3. Right, this is the Peggy trailer, by the way. What is the difference between Peggy and the other body? Is Peggy just the UK one? This is basically the UK trailer. It's unlisted on YouTube. It only has a few views.
reasons for coming to this vast frontier. But for our guild, we who
I'm going
protect
to try and
this
snipe a
land,
good pause.
one reason stands above all others. Our wonder.
Do I use reshade?
You
No,
feel
I
it
do not
too.
use reshade. Not at the
We
moment. You're not
see
looking
it
at
in
it.
your eyes. Wonder
Vanilla
at
Guild
the
Wars 2, you're looking at.
astonishing power that shapes this land of awe. At the great spirits to whom we are bound. At the gods who hold dominion over all. We cannot guarantee your comfort or even your safety. But if you yearn for horizons unexplored, for fellowship and purpose, for a cause worth dying for, to you, we can
Right,
promise.
okay, that's about as good as we can get, I think. That's pretty good there, right? All right. Sorry to cut it off during the climax, but you know. So just to go back, like some people want a dedicated lore video on the tapestry. I don't know whether, I mean, I might do that. I don't know. But yeah, the big thing in the bottom, in the middle, right? So the very center is ore, and it looks like it's being raised or manipulated by a wizard or something, and we've had speculations that might be the Scepter of Ore. Obviously, at the top is the Pantheon, and there's questions there. Is that Grenthor Doom, namely? But down at the bottom, this central thing, people are saying that could be the Heart of the Obscure. It does look vaguely like it. So here, if I... Actually, because we can just put it out in-game at any point, can't we? Do I have to be in the right map? We're holding the damn thing. Scan for rift. So it's there. So I don't know what you guys think about that. Oh, it's actually got a cooldown. I didn't even know that it had a cooldown. If I leave the dialogue window up, does it stay? And I can just toggle this off? I don't know, guys. I don't know if I see it. Oh, damn it. It didn't pause. It didn't stay where we wanted it to. So the trailer's dead now. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. I just... There's a part of me that thinks it's a bit of a risk as well to talk about the Heart of the Obscure a lot in Guild Wars 3. That's a pretty prominent area of the banner, which, you know, is probably representative of the product. People don't like the Heart of the Obscure. They just view it as a get-out-of-free MacGuffin with nothing tangible about it. Now, they could explain things tangible about it. They could expand it into a big part of the story. They could make it good. But I don't know. You don't buy it? I think the thing that people say is the golden stuff on the inside of it looks good. And looks similar and familiar. But yeah, I'm not sure about that. Next. Oh, this one's very small text. What we got here? I think it's a really fun thing to speculate about, says Sean Murphy. I think a fun thing to speculate about is about what the new ore map will contain, because they are 100% going to show places that will be in Guild Wars 3, and we will get to see the before and after. I think the coolest thing would be seeing the remains of a pale tree that died when ore sank, but knowing that it means there could be a living pale tree in Guild Wars 3 with the Sylvari. I think that's a good idea, and there is that bit in the trailer that shows what seems to maybe be a pale tree. It also just fuels Guild Wars 3 in a fun way. We know that the Sylvari are looking into ore and rebuilding it. If they find the remains of a pale tree there, then that's big news for them, and that's quite exciting. We get to see they reflect off of a lot of that, and that can feed into a mini expansion very, very comfortably. Now, there is another thing. If you've been following me on Blue Sky, you will have seen me retweet this. I kind of want to make a video about this, but it's such a short... I mean, this really would be a very, very, very short video. It would just be sort of recapping the lore. But I think people might love it. I don't know. I feel very weird right now, okay? Because yesterday, I spun off that timeline video, right? So those of you who come to these live ones, the expanded ones, you know, we sit, we talk, we go over, we bounce around a million topics, right? And that it's never stopped being that for me. We've talked lore. We've done stuff for ages and ages and ages. The funny thing is, though, because I specifically spliced off that, like, 20 minutes where I was looking at the timeline and gave it its own title and thumbnail, those those comments, and I adore this, and I'm so happy for this, and it's really lovely, and it makes me feel really, really good, and it makes me really feel like I have a place in the community, which I don't always, right? The comments are exploding with people going, oh my god, WP's back to making lore videos. Yeah, this is the best thing ever. WP lore, he's back. Whoa. And you know, that always makes me cringe a little because people have typed this about me 100,000 times, but the whole, oh, the king returns thing, right? Which I get the sentiment is very nice, right? And people have been very, very nice. But it's just wild to me because it's like, nothing, I'm not back. Nothing's really changed. I just spun that into a little video. I just made a section out of that. We've been talking, and what I didn't edit that in any kind of an interesting way. I just browsed the wiki. I just casually glossed over the wiki to suggest that video has anything on the Guild Wars 2 mysteries or something. It's insane. But because it was put in that little package, I mean, people were loving it. It really blew my mind how few people will click on these live videos. I mean, I've known it as a fact for years, but to like feel it, it's just crazy. So maybe this next thing I'm talking about, I should talk about in its own video. But I'll need to get some assets for it. Fuck it. Oh, I'm going to do it. All right. This sucks, though, because it means I don't talk about it right now. If you follow me on Blue Sky, I have a pretty cool theory. And it's not even just my theory, okay? Some of you guys bounced tweets off of me, and then we realized there was a cool idea, right? Pretty cool theory about what they could do in the next map relating to the Hall of Monuments. So, yeah, I might do a little video on that. And it's not going to be anything great and amazing. It's going to be like 7 to 15 minutes of chat. That's it, right? Mostly just going over stuff we've already talked about, such as, ooh, the mystery of the Hall of Monuments and the Isle of the North. But, you know, we'll see, and we'll spin it into a little video, and we'll see how it goes. But, yeah, so that was one thing I would have liked to have had a bit more prepared for today. But yeah. King, I didn't vote for you. That. Okay, listen, I'm not a very good Brit. I don't really care for Monty Python, and I haven't really watched much Monty Python. But that's a Monty Python thing, isn't it? Am I wrong? And another Sean. This is Shawnee Sharp. We're swimming in Sean's today. Oh, yeah, this was an ex-dev, apparently. I thought this was quite cool. As someone who worked on Guild Wars from 2003 to 2014, I would just like to say ... nerd, smiley face. Also, this is really great. We put a lot of work into the lore. We put a lot of work into the backstory. But I was never really clear on how much of it was really communicated in-game. So Sean, I don't know if I've ever met this guy. I don't know if he's messaged me before. I don't know what kind of work Sean did on the game. The mystery Sean, I really don't know. I don't know what this... But 2003, guys, that's like the start of it all. This guy, like, made prophecies. 2003, he's got to be like... What's that thing? People always used to say that... Gale, right? Gale was employee number 11 or some shit, right? Wasn't that, or was she employee number 1 or employee number 2? Like, among the old guard devs at the studio, if you go digging in interviews enough, you'll see that they like know their number. They were employee X or whatever. I don't know how it works for the Boomerang guys now who left for a while and then came back, but whoever this guy is, he gets a low number. That's a low fucking number right there. And that makes me very interested. I think that's the kind of thing I'd expect a low number to say as well. Because especially for prophecies, I'm sure they did put a lot of concepting in and a lot of work into this universe and this franchise. But prophecies was so thin. A lot of it was like, you know, not really, not fully explained or not well stated, really. It's funny, I have a message about a short story we're going to read in a minute. And it got me looking for the word tyrant on my channel. Just the word tyrant. And I had all these messages. When I run a search for tyrant, across like the hundreds of thousands of messages over 14 years, usually if people use the word tyrant, it's because they're deep in the lore rabbit holes. And so I was reading all these lore reviews from Secrets of the Obscure and from like Soto in particular. You had a lot of them. Oh, you haven't heard me say Sutu for a while, have you? I guess because of Eparch and stuff. And there were people talking about FromSoft storytelling and how it's so deep and meaningful to like analyze the environment and know that there's real meaning behind there, and they wanted to see me let's play it and stuff. And it kind of that's sort of the prophecies vibe as well a little bit, you know. It's like, okay, so there's this weird sign, there's this weird bit of art, there are these extra ascension runes or whatever. Does it mean something? And, you know, there was a real fanatical belief that, yeah, it all meant something for years, and it really captured the lore community. Before I was ever in the lore community. So, you know, you can go back and you can read that stuff. Orichalcum. Yeah, we got the sigils and the ruins and the Orichalcum. I don't know what else people mispronounce. No one on the internet ever lies about who they are. Okay, but when he said that to me, I think it rang a bell. I think he has dropped similar messages at very infrequent intervals over the years. I think I remember something about Sean that might have messaged me before. Just I don't remember any details about who they were or when they were or what they did or anything. But it feels familiar enough for me that I don't think it's someone just lying. Plus, I think that stuff's rarer than you expect as well. I don't know. What do you get out of that? Oh, I was a dev. Plus, you know, it was such a specific years to band it on. Mithril. Look, Mithril is a perfectly valid way of talking about that ore. Or what? Or is it? Maybe that's only when it's spelled with a Y. Is it Mithril when it's a Y? Is it Mithril only when we're dealing with Tolkien? Because it's certainly Mithril in that saying, isn't it? Bet we can't pronounce... Oh, God. Ardong correctly? Ardong? Ardogne? Is it pronounced like champagne? Sorry, I mean champagne. Is it like that? Champagne? Do you guys like champagne? It isn't? Mithril like the dwarves say it in Lord of the Rings? Yeah, exactly. That's how they say it in there. That's totally how they say it. Right, okay, so let's get into the live stream, shall we? That's it. I'm really sorry, everyone. I've been stressed. I've had shit going on. I'm sorry. That's all I got for you. Except this short story that I want to read for fun in a minute. So, yeah, what have we got here? Well... The roundup. Woody's roundup. Oh, my God, that works, because WoodenPotatoes. Why have we never done that as a segment? So here we've got it. I'm going to put this over on my main monitor. So thanks to Dantian5, and if you guys want to watch this for yourselves, check it out on YouTube as hosted by Achilles Melee. May have to log us off at some point, but I'll try to summarize what I'm watching. They've mentioned that this stream is meant to be a follow-up on last week's studio update. More information on Guild Wars 3 will be shared at a later point. Yeah, I don't know. Did you guys have the impression that this was going to be a Guild Wars 3 stream before it happened? I kind of did, to be honest. Like around Saturday, I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a general... That's probably just my mistake. But, you know, it is that thing where, and again, as a self-interested content creator, I just got to say, they can slowly filter out the news about Guild Wars 3 over the next 18 months. And I can be there with you guys through the whole thing. I think there's no rush with that. So, yeah. So, yeah, the first big thing that they clarified, and this was excellent to hear, they were very clear about it. Does annual updates, that was the exact term they used, equal expansions? And yeah, they said the goal is to return to annual expansions. They did keep it framed around that that's the goal, which gives them that little bit of wiggle room. A small appeal to your humanity when if they miss that goal, they'll say, please be fair to us. They can at least say that. But no, they were pretty explicit multiple times as this went along. Don't panic, guys. Before I get into the nitty-gritty, I just want to say, I really thought this stream was fucking awesome. Actually, let's put a poll up for the live viewers. What was your take on it? What was your take on the pop? Before I say anything. I'm typing, sorry. Hold on. So I'm going to give you 3 options on this poll, okay? Because I think, to me, one of the things that I took from this, so I'll start the poll here, was their sincerity. I really believed them. I really thought that they were passionate game devs, nerds, just like us, that wanted the best for the franchise, and that this was their plan, and you know, when they say they've been doing it for years and that we can trust them and all that shit, you know, I believed it. I believed they were sincere, and I loved what I was hearing, right? You can say I've fallen for that hook, line, and sinker if you like, but I really did feel that way. So I've given you 3 options, though. You guys can put your own responses. You can say you're happy and they seemed sincere. That's like me. You can say you're unhappy, but they did seem sincere. Or you can actually put it as an option, you're unhappy because they seemed insincere. Because it seemed that they were just, you know, giving you the runaround, or, you know, that they weren't quite being fair about the history of the franchise, or that they were biting off more than they can chew, or the truth is they really are going to move on from Guild Wars 2. They're just saying that. It's their bottom line, but and so on. You know, they have to support it. They have to keep supporting Guild Wars 2 just so that, you know, just in case Guild Wars 3 is terrible, they need to have something to fall back on, right? Otherwise, it blows up the studio. So they're being insincere, and they're not talking about that. You know, if that's your cynical take, you can vote for that in the poll as well. And I'll look at the results for that in a moment. Get your votes in. But, yeah, I just, from where I'm coming from, you know, I totally bought it. I bought every word of it. It seemed like they totally got it. They got where Guild Wars 2 players had been unsatisfied. Okay, so the one topic that didn't come up that I think would have been an absolute, because here we go, never happy, right, guys? Have to nitpick. You're damn right we do. Okay, here's the one. I thought it was 99.999% brilliant. The one final arena of conversation and last thing that I would have loved to have heard them to candidly talk about, and I use that phrase a lot, right, when I talk about ArenaNet. I talk about them being savvy and not too idealistic, and I talk about them being candid, all right? And when I think of open communication, I don't desire that from a studio just because, oh, I want news and I'm bored and I need news and I want news and please give me, which is what 90% of people are asking for when they talk about wanting more communication. No, I want to feel like it's authentic and honest. And I think they hit those bars. But the one thing that I think I would have liked a little bit of talk about, and I can see why they didn't do this, because it's kind of tacky. And also, specifically for Colin and Josh, it's actually relating to a period of time that they weren't really there either. But I would have loved to have heard some reflection from them about what has gone wrong in the past when it comes to them trying to juggle multiple products. Because that's a big part of the story, right? Why is everyone so scared they're going to abandon Guild Wars 2, or that they can't handle it all at once, that they can't juggle all the balls? Why are people scared of that? It's not just because they abandoned Guild Wars 1, right? It's because of what happened at the end of Season 4. It's because we were clearly building something and then it went apart. It's because we've seen the concept art over the years for, you know, that Sci-Fi City. It's because we've seen leaks for mobile games over the years. It's because we've seen who they've been hiring over the years. It's been because of dodgy Glassdoor reviews over the years. And it's because the dedicated community is well aware of all that stuff. And, you know, I just think, you know, I think they got a 9.9 out of 10. A 10 out of 10 would have been a little talk about, okay, look, we know your confidence is a bit shaken because of Season 4. It's a very different day, and I don't know how much detail. You know, they're not obligated to talk about any of this shit at all, frankly. So it's not like I'm trying to demand it or anything. But I think that would have been nice to have just heard a little bit about. That's all I think. I think it would have been it would have been nice. It would have escalated this presentation from an already fantastic presentation to a completely like mind-blowingly, oh, fantastic, you know. Like, if there's a mea culpa that comes out, all the better. If it's them saying, look, we know your confidence is a bit shaken because, yeah, we had plans and we scrambled for the Icebreed Saga a few years ago, all right? But this is not the same as that. Don't worry about all that. We've been doing it for years. You know, just something like that. I think that's the only conversational beat that I think wasn't perhaps hit. Fuck, man, our mail's still full. I'm so sorry anybody who wants to join Spud. You know, the other day I was doing one of these streams. All I did was just fly around and I finished daily. Oh my god, I got a lot I can earn on the vault at the moment. Oh, we've still got the festival to do. Oh, I'm so swarmed with shit. Life is busy for me at the moment. Yeah, so anyway, that's where I am. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was well communicated. I thought that they talked about things that was within their remit to talk about. Again, because some of those stories are older stories from the studio. And yeah, I thought it was great. So let's see what the poll says here. All right, what have we got? Okay. 93% of you guys are saying I'm happy and they seem sincere. Yeah, there you go. I think that's a rational take. I think that's very sane. 93%. But we do have 6% of you saying I'm unhappy, though they seem sincere. And 1% of you, so that's a couple of you really, said you're unhappy, they seemed insincere. How does it feel to be in the 1% there, guys? To those of you, oh no, look, I know it could get a bit rowdy or whatever. Come on. I want to hear from you. What do you mean they were insincere? What seemed fake to you? What seemed phoned in? What seemed not real? I would love to hear what gave you that impression. Because nothing gave me that impression in that whole conversation. Right, let's move on. So there you go. That's my general take. I thought it was fantastic. I think it was one of the best communications they've done in years. And they actually openly said as well, they said, look, one of the reasons we're announcing Guild Wars 3 18 months early is because we told you guys we were going to communicate a lot more with you, and now we've just been silent. Why we needed to tell you why there's not going to be a mini X-Pack. And it really isn't our policy or our desire to be quiet and withhold details. We just kind of had to, while we were angling for this big reveal. We're doing the reveal early, very early, so that we can start talking to you again. And there you go. And I buy that. Oh, that's totally buyable to me. I don't even think that this is that early necessarily. I mean, that compared to Guild Wars 2's running, Jesus. I actually saw a thing, total side note, total tangent here, but I saw a post on Reddit earlier that was like, today is the 8th anniversary for something. Does anyone want to guess what we're the 8th anniversary for? It's a gaming thing. It is a series I have covered on the channel. I've done a couple of Let's Plays on the franchise, and I intend and plan for many more. What are we on the 8th year anniversary of today? Does anybody know? Colin wasn't this nervous during HOT? Oh, did he strike you? He didn't strike me as nervous either, to be honest. I mean, it was a shit show with the audio, but I thought they rolled with the punches quite well. Yeah, the Elder Scrolls 6 teaser is 8 years old. People are like joking that they need to remaster it. I mean, the thing is, what's there to remaster? Let's be real. There's no detail there. There's nothing in it. They kept it so vague, so you wouldn't know what the province is. Though I do believe the Hammerfell High Rock thing is the situation over there. Yeah, no, it's the Elder Scrolls teaser. Right, okay, let's get in, shall we? Let's get in. I'm really happy to see that, guys. I'm happy to see that you all thought it was a really good communication. The Spyro remakes. Wait, what? They're doing another remake. I know it said they're releasing Final Fantasy X again. There's going to be another re-release of that remaster. They've put that on every fucking platform. It's crazy. I don't know if they're going to tweak it again. It's coming out for Switch 2 now. Have you guys seen that? It's so weird seeing the comments about that as well. Because people are really indignant if they don't do more. They're like, this is ridiculous. How many times have they re-released this now? And all they've done is add the odd cheat code or a slight engine tweak here. And I'm sitting there thinking, fucking, what? What do you expect? There's no... What? It's not a live service game. You're lucky to get anything. I can't believe you'd have any expectation about what they would do with that game. Look, they're just trying to get a bit more money by putting it on another platform. If they make any tweaks, count your lucky stars. It's crazy to me. Yeah, there's a new 2D game. Yeah, Kerry was quite interested in that. One of her favourite games of all time, or her 2 favourite games of all time, are Octopath Traveler. And I really disappointed her because I played Octopath and it didn't really capture me. But she loves that art style. She loves that shit. They'll complain and still buy it. I mean, I don't know. That's the Goomba fallacy, isn't it? Are you guys aware of the Goomba fallacy? Just for one final tangent before we move on. I think that's something that we should all be well aware of. There are certain, like, things that if you're going to be a degenerate that's online far too much, which, let's face it, we all have the propensity to be. You should know about the Goomba fallacy. I don't really know why it's called that. I think it's because it's based on some comic. It's something about the original Goomba that you jump on at the start of Super Mario, the original Mario. and it's like that Goomba has the highest kill count of all things in all of video games or something. And then someone did a comic about that Goomba. And in like one panel, Mario successfully jumps on it and kills it. And there's like a quote, and the person who did it says, "Oh my god, this Goomba's so easy to kill." And then there's on another panel, it's someone walking headfirst into it and dying to it. No, this isn't what it is it? I don't know what the cartoon is. It's something like there's loads of different varieties of Goomba, and people assume the fallacy is this: you go to like a Reddit thread and you see one person says, "Oh, I hate the X2's coming to Switch," and then someone else says, "Oh, I can't wait to buy it," and you assume they're all the same person, right? You just view that community as a monolith, and you say these people are insane. Look at that guy. That guy's an idiot. He has two of the exact same opinion. He believes one thing and does the other thing. And it's like, no, that's the Goomba fallacy. It's not all the same Goomba. It's not the same person, right? And that happens a lot in all areas of discussion, in all fandoms, not just Guild Wars, not just Guild Wars Reforged or 2 or 3. It's all over the place. But you just always remember that just because, you know, the Guild Wars 2 subreddit upvotes the shit out of something one day, it doesn't mean that they unanimously, there's now one consensus. They're different people saying it, right? The people that are complaining about the fashion and not the people that are complaining about the microtransactions necessarily. Anyway, right, let's seriously, this is getting ridiculous. What have we got here? Got to be an ore. Right, so yeah, does annual updates equal expansions? Yes, the goal is to return to annual expansions. Updates was a miswording. It's just their internal terminology for expansions. Is it? Is that what he said? I don't remember him saying that. Annual expansions are their sweet spot after iterating through different content cadences. So, you know, I'm talking about candor. There was a moment in this stream where they even said, like, very clearly, they said, look, we've been making Guild Wars 3 in the background for years. So if you've been happy with mini X-Packs up till now, then nothing's going to change. They actually went so far as to say that the studio kind of feels like 2 mini studios, and I loved hearing this. They basically said there's no cannibalization, really. People don't cross teams all the time. It's asking a lot of an artist to go from the Guild Wars 2 pipeline to the Guild Wars 3 pipeline, or the Guild Wars 3 engine to the Guild Wars 2, or the Guild Wars 3 writing, or, you know, like, it's a lot to ask of the devs. And I think that's a really strong thing. I've never worked at a game studio, right? But I've been creative before. And when you're feeling creative and when you're working on a project, well, for me, I can't speak for the whole world, right? I can only speak for myself. But if you're feeling creative and you're working on a project, it is really fucking horrible to be forced to be pried away from that to then work on something else. And to find and muster and summon that same enthusiasm and excitement for something else. And, you know, if the something else is supposed to have a very different tone, then that's even worse, you know, because you've spent all this time loving and, you know, enjoying the idea of a cozy game, right? Or a gritty, realistic game, or you know, some deep political commentary or something. And now, and to do the U-turn, you might, as a person, have it in yourself to understand each product and like what's fun about each product. To just be able to change that on a dime, like, you're not going to be a great contributing member of that team. I'm sure you're not, right? I mean, maybe, and that, to be honest, that's one of the things that is kind of a bit off-putting. I tip my hat to anyone who works in the industry, right? Because these people, not everyone's a game director, not everyone's a studio head. Not everyone has real say. You know, you have to be the part of the crowd, and you get sort of yanked around all over the place, you know? Sometimes entire studios, you know, you look at like the Larian origin story or whatever, you know, they're stuck making educational games for years just to be able to scratch together the cash to do what they're actually passionate about. And you have to get in there and you have to do high quality work, even if you're not feeling it deep inside you. And I think that's rough, man. Not just, so you've heard me talking about the cannibalization and shit for years from a player perspective, right? Because ultimately I'm an advocate for you guys, I'm an advocate for myself, us the consumer, right? And that is where the buck stops for me, realistically. That's why I try not to become too close to the studio and all that kind of shit. But you know, just to talk from their perspective, that fucking sucks. That sucks getting jerked around like that. And it's not going to lead to a high quality product. So literally on the stream, Colin's there saying, no, it's like they're too many studios. We really try not to move them around for the technical reasons, for the creative reasons. And that's really good, you know? I think that's great. Now, it's very different if someone says, look, I'm on the Guild Wars 2 team. I'm not feeling it right now. I'd much rather talk about, you know, whatever they're doing in Guild Wars 3. I want to talk about momentum-based combat rather than hotkey-based combat. And then I'm sure there's some flexibility there. But having that siloed off is really good. And they have this third silo as well with 2 weeks, too. Which, by the way, guys, my interview... I'm hoping to edit it and publish it tomorrow. I'm hoping that my big Guild Wars 1 interview will be tomorrow. However, there's a chance that I will be submitting a draft first for review first. And I don't know how long the draft process will take. So ideally, I'm hoping to have the finished product for tomorrow. Ideally, the draft process can go quickly and comfortably. And then I'll have it up as soon as possible. So you might see that there's not a stream tomorrow. There'll be something much, much, much better. I'll keep the news going, guys, for those who are excited about all three. Anyway, are you concerned that taking an 18-month break will affect player retention? Oh, I see how he's formatted this. This is like each question and then each response. You can't wait? Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Sorry that I'm being a bit shitty reading chat here at the moment, guys. I promise I do have the big notifications up, so I shouldn't miss any memberships. Or if you want to tack a question on to that, then that works as well. You totally know what I mean? You've been burning your savings to make your own indie game, dividing your time between freelance work and the project is horrible. Oh, yeah, dude. I can only imagine. Like, it's one thing to do that when you're, like, laboring, right? You're doing you're in the trades or whatever, right? You can switch off your brain. The passion doesn't have to be there. I feel like passion has to be there in a creative industry, doesn't it? What would you guys rather do? Fucking soulless grunt work that you don't have to be passionate about, whether that's in an office or anywhere, right? Or in a creative industry where you're not feeling the love. I feel like being in a creative industry where you're not feeling the love, that's gotta be worse, right? Imagine like writing a book, right? Just move away from video games for a second. Imagine you've been told to write a book, and you've got to get X chapter done. You got some quota that you need to hit. I don't know. I mean, a part of this is just being an adult, isn't it? And just sitting down and grinding it out. But that's not going to be work that you're very proud of. I remember. I think I saw an interview with Martin Scorsese. Recently, his granddaughter, I think it was, and she pulled some questions online and she asked him about his films, and he got a question about Leonardo DiCaprio in Shutter Island. And Shutter Island is a fantastic film. It has an incredibly melancholic ending, a brilliant line: what would be better, to live as a monster or to die as a good man? And Mark Ruffalo's face when it clicks. Fuck, this guy's... he's faking. He's there still. What? And you watch him walk off, and the soundtrack is awful, by the way. I fucking hate the soundtrack in that movie. But they do have that one good song. Anyway, and he walks off on the lawn. Oh my god, what an ending! What an incredible ending! That's real good piece of work there, and it's a better the film. The reason I mentioned the ending specifically is the ending is better than the novel, and the guy that wrote the novel actually said no, they came up with a better ending here. Anyway, Martin Scorsese gets asked by his granddaughter or something about this, and he like furrows his brow, looks a bit weird, and then he goes, "What's this about? Oh, is this that Shutter Island movie? That Shutter movie, is it?" And then he goes, blah, 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 I can't remember. But the way he phrases it, it's that Shutter Island, that Shutter movie. To him, he hates it. It was just like a gig he had to do to get by. And you can still hear it years later. He doesn't really have any memory of it. He doesn't care. His passion wasn't there in it. And it's amazing to look at him reflect on a brilliant fucking film. And he's just got like no love for it at all. But he made a great piece of work, you know, so I don't know. Anyway, that's just a fun thing. Those aren't spoilers. No, you'd have to have a very, very good knowledge of exactly what that movie's doing and why it's doing it and how it works. And you'd have to remember that line I just gave you immaculately the whole way through the film for that to be a spoiler. You actually make it more of a risk of it being a spoiler by banging on about it as though it's important. All right, okay, let's keep going. It's a good film. Check it out. So yeah, are they concerned that an 18-month break will affect player retention? No, they're happy to be able to modernize the game. It's been a long time player request, it has indeed. They also think it's a good opportunity to bring in new and returning players, hence the recent changes to how things are bundled. Mentioned it isn't just bug fixing. They talk about the Zaitan fight, Heart of Thorns are briefly name dropped. Also says there isn't no new content at all. Oh, these notes aren't very good, are they? I wouldn't have taken notes like this. All right, I got a question for you guys about the Corteria overhaul. I got another poll coming up. Another poll. Listen, guys, I never caught your responses. Wow, I can send a super chat to myself. I never caught your responses. So look, if you felt they were being insincere, drop them as walls of text on YouTube so I can screenshot them and we can go from there. Here's my next question to you guys. Pretty easy. Dungeons? So, I got into an argument with Kerry and a friend while I was watching this this stream. Because I said, you know, for the Corteria overhaul, Corteria reworks, the QOL stuff, I think dungeons are totally of merit. I think they can do stuff. I think we could give feedback about the story dungeons, about the explorable dungeons, about dungeon quick play, about how they're integrated into the story, potentially about their rewards, about the LFG category. Dungeons, to me, are like totally there. But they were like, no, they don't like dungeons. They don't want to do dungeons. They just care about fractals and raids, so why would they ever update dungeons again? Which, like, on the surface of it, and I had to really try. I won't get any credit for this, but I had to really try to respect other people's opinions and not turn it into a massive argument. But I think they're totally wrong. I think that dungeons are absolutely the kind of thing that ArenaNet will look at in supporting Guild Wars 2 long term. And I think the verdict is still out. For the past few years, they haven't looked at them. Fine. But that doesn't mean that they need to be this weird, ugly nub, this weird barnacle hanging off of the rest of the product. And I think that they probably would be interested in doing stuff with them and integrating them into the product a bit more, especially a quick play for them. The other option, obviously, is to integrate them into fractals one day as a part of a bigger scheme. You know, I'm starting to think ahead. What can we do with the forum feedback? And I was thinking I was going to talk about dungeons, but I don't know now. Well, look, see, you guys are quite split on that. I'm not talking about them making more dungeons. I'm not talking about something like Twilight Aetherpath. I'm not asking for a content patch. I just think that that falls under the lines of QOL for Corteria. Surely it does. The new LFG UI was the first step to a dungeon revamp, I think. Fractals, boo, dungeons, yeah. I mean, look, I think a lot of us are bigger fans of dungeons than fractals, but... They sold Raid Quick Play as an X-Pack feature, so I think a future X-Pack for fractals and dungeons merge? I don't know about that. Because now that Quick Play is in, I don't know whether it's very bankable necessarily as like, oh, we're gonna give you World versus World Quick Play next, or well, that's a silly. I don't know whether I don't know. It's a part of the story. They should be looking at updating them. Well, look, here's the main thing for me. Okay, I emphatically believe, and have always believed, that the personal story should not optionally send you to the dungeons. It should force you to the dungeons, the story edition of the dungeon. And if that cannot be soloed, and they're scared about making people party up, fine, make it soloable. But the story, flows and makes way more sense. It's all much, much, much cleaner and much better if you actually go and do the dungeons at each juncture. But most new players don't do that, and I think that that's a real shame, and that is some feedback that I would advocate for. True integration of the story dungeons, and if that means that they need to, you know, like scale it down in story or something a bit, then let's talk about that. But that's the weird thing. So another thing Grouch mentioned on this this stream is that he kind of wishes that they weren't doing it chronologically, because by doing it chronologically, they are starting with Corteria, which has got so much. He actually suggested they're going to split the Corteria section in half. They're going to do Corteria systems and then Corteria content? Is that what he said? I can't remember what he said. Anyway, there's so much. And by the way, the answer to that then is, well, don't do it chronologically. But they've got a huge mountain to climb. It's only 18 months. So suddenly I feel like they're going to be quite limited in the sort of things that they can do. If they end up too limited, then we're just going to get a few changes and meta tweaks, right? And to that, it's going to be like, well, we get those in patch notes anyway. So I don't know. This is going to be an odd one. There's a lot to get through. We'll do some workshops about that, guys. We'll figure out what we want. Like, POF is a big obvious one as well. It's got to be meta events, right? Did you hear what he said about the moving platforms not being ready 3 weeks before launch? I did, yeah. Well, let's keep reading this because they might talk about that here. Why not do expansions and modernization in parallel? Business concerns, internal team size, time, trying to do both at once would result in both being very underwhelming. Some past expansions have done a bit of modernizing like the Wizards Vault, but the new effort is supposed to target all of the game rather than just the latest expansion. Yeah, this was... I didn't fully buy this one, by the way. Like, Grouch mentioned at some point that they could not do the World versus World Borderland as a part of an expansion. And it's just... Really? Like, you did a big raid update as a part of an expansion this year. You cut a content release and you turned it into a systems release. Why could a WoW Borderlands map be that? I don't know. Is it just because they got so many things they want to do? Can ArenaNet deliver on developing Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 3 simultaneously? They mentioned they've been internally preparing for years to do it, plus partnering for 2 weeks, and have been doing it for some time. That's the more important thing. I didn't like when they said... Colin was talking when he said this, and I didn't like that he said we've been preparing. It may be true that they've been preparing for years, but all the community should ever hear is we've been doing it already for years. That's all that really matters, right? That's the proof right there. ArenaNet is split in 3 mini studios, one for Guild Wars 2, a very small one for Guild Wars 1, presumably one for Guild Wars 3. Yeah, and so like I was wondering if we'll hear who the Guild Wars 3 game director is, guys. Will it be a name we recognize? Obviously, again, this was not a Guild Wars 3 stream, so... FTEs, what is that? Full-time employees working on Guild Wars 2 are dedicated only to Guild Wars 2. No borrowing of resources. Guild Wars 2 and 3 have very different tools and very different tech stacks. Will the Hall of Monuments give rewards for previously achieved achievements, or will it require replaying? Yeah, Grouch was a bit vague on this. More news to come later, but the goal is to do both. So yeah, remember, one of my immediate responses to all of this was, oh, it sounds like it's just going to be another Return 2 thing. It's just going to be another Return to Living World, which I don't know whether I was that excited about, but they're going to do both, which is good. The Return 2 series are very good for retention, and what I will say, guys, is... Oh, hey, we had a member. I know, thanks very much. 50 months. Dude, that's crazy. To anyone listening to me right now, that is a lapsed player, you've been gone for a while, and you're thinking, okay, what's WP talking about with this Garen guy? What's this Heart of the Obscure thing? What Wizards Town? And you're thinking, I'm going to replay it all. I feel a bit odd saying this, but you might want to wait just a few months. I don't know. You might want to leave it because they'll probably give you a huge incentive to go back through the whole game via the Hall of Monuments anyway soon. So you're going to end up doing it twice. I don't know. I like the idea of replaying through it all again. Do you remember before End of Dragons? The so-called ending, the original ending. Do you remember that? We made a thief In fact, I can show him to you. It's weird. I sometimes feel like, oh, I should, like, what am I trying to explain here? Sometimes we do a lot of work on stuff. We put out, like, big fucking series, like, long things. And then they just completely fade from my memory. And it's like, holy shit, yeah, that was a big thing. This character here, this is Kleptomania Artist. He doesn't look like how he did during the series. I don't know whether I have a different... No, I don't have a different fashion template. Can we just turn this off? No, that is also not it. Anyway, this guy, this was a Let's Play character I made. Do you guys remember making him? And I did everything in the entire game. We played the entire personal story. We played all of... not Season 1, because it wasn't out yet. The Season 1 remake wasn't out. We did all Season 2, all of Heart. Look at this fucking character. I never log in on this character. We went all the way. Look at this. Until Ender Dragons. And I know it looks like now there's a bunch more, but these are the mini expects, obviously. We did a whole playthrough. And I feel like a project like that could be quite cool to kick up again now. Rolling into Guild Wars 3. But the timing is rough because what I would like to... Like, he explored everywhere. The timing is rough because... he didn't get map comp. On the one hand, I want to force it out really quick so that we have... And we can use what we learn there for our forum feedback. But that would mean doing it really soon. On the other hand, we could spread it out across the entire 18 months. But then we don't. Then it's not useful as feedback. Like, do you get what I mean? Like, it'd be cool to just replay Corteria and just be like, okay, this sucked, this sucked, this sucked, this sucked. This was good. Here's some QOL tweaks. It is interesting to me that the forum specifically lists the whole idea as QOL. So it makes me think... It's like so much goddamn poison so fast. So it makes me think maybe a lot of the things I would want to talk about aren't actually in the scope. Like, they need really to release some rubrics for people to follow with stuff like that. Anyway, what else we got here? Hey, the Bird's Den with $5. Thank you very much for that, the Bird's Den. I really appreciate that. You have a question for me as well. That's really good. I really hope we get an actual use of the Hall of Monuments again with the little statues, and it's not just an achievement ping. Would you be fine with that, WP? Good question. Lovely thought there. Would I be fine with it? Yes. But I wouldn't love it. I would consume the slop. What has the internet done to that word, man? I loved that word. I really like... I can't use that word anymore. First the AI haters took it, and now everyone... Now, that word... There is a thing in linguistics, right, of a word that gets too big and gets too popular and too overused, and it actually kills the word. You can look at the evolution and the usage of words, and if they get too big, if it's like a candle that burns too bright, they can burn themselves completely out. If you want to be a new word and you want to really survive and you want to really last, you've got to hit like that middling area where it just sort of gets used but not too much to the point it pisses people off or it starts to become a sign of the time. Slop is going mental at the moment. Slop is gonna burn out, right? I'm telling you, it won't be around in 15 years. In 15 years, when you hear the word slop, you'll be like, oh yeah, that was that word in the 2020s. They've killed the word! My beloved! Oh. Because people attach it to everything, right? Oh, Guild Wars 3? That's more MMO slop, right? Oh, I enjoyed watching my showcase of cozy slop. Oh, let's slop up the story. But I'm sorry, Slop. I'm going to have to cut you loose. We used to have something. You are overly optimistic. No, it will. It will die out. It will. All the slop. Look, do a / remind me, 15 years. I'll be here. Middle-aged WP will be posting his little videos. Hi guys. Welcome to another video. I'm here to talk about the meta in Guild Wars 3. Isn't it annoying that that you earn less money from combat if you stack ranged players? You can't just artificially prop up melee playstyles through the economy. I think that's a terrible idea. I don't know. I have no idea what I'd be talking about Guild Wars 3. Oh, it'll be this. Alright, here we go. Here's Debbie for you. Alright. Alright, Debbie, you're allowed back in the hot seat. I'll bring you back. Here you go, Debbie. Oh, doesn't it... Does anybody remember that Guild Wars 3 thing? Yeah, that didn't last long. Oh, that's a cynical one, isn't it, there? Get out of here, Debbie. Shoo! Get away! No, Guild Wars 3 will be popping off and thriving in 15 years. Chud slop. I find that word very funny as well. I'm a bit scared of that word. I don't know how offensive it is. I had someone drop a comment saying, WP, just so that you know, that word's very offensive. And I was like, I know it's not I know it's an insult. I'm going to get told it has some historical roots or something, and it's... Alright. Yeah, the Chud Club. For April Fools, we really need to rename ourselves that. Alright, what else we got? More news to come later. The goal is to do both. Sorry. First two releases will be core game only. Second will be other overworld and story content. Oh, right. Is this what it was? I didn't interpret it this way. Core? Does he mean systems? This guy's not... Let's see. Did this dude do timestamps? He did. Why do expansions not? Will they be able to do both? Hall of Monuments. Structure of releases. Guild Wars 2 engine. Can Guild Wars 2 engine handle? I think it's here. Let's listen, guys. Here we go.
Ready for me to go to the next one?
Let's do it. All right.
Okay. Is Guild Wars Reforged going to be connected to the new Hall of Monuments system?
All right.
And you listen to this, right? This is crunchy, choppy audio. This is really good compared to how it was earlier. That's too late. That's Hall of Monuments. Let's try this. Structure of releases. I think this might be it.
I guess some additional info I can that I'll throw out here a little bit is in terms of the structure for the releases. So right now, I wish we could go out of order, to be honest, because so we're starting with the core game. The core game is the biggest chunk of the game possible, right? It's the thing that we spent 7 years developing. And
so what do you guys think, by the way? I'm thinking like I don't know. It depends where the line is between system updates and content. Do you know what I'd love to see? Do you know what I want more than anything else? Just in terms of core open world maps, I want fucking integrated meta trains as a codified feature, where you can put your squad up and it will basically auto waypoint you to the next boss in a certain sequence. And it's like a thing that you can follow along with very smoothly and easily. I don't know, actually. I kind of take that back. There's a lot to talk about there, because what I just described there isn't actually that fancy or interesting. But then there's like certain maps that don't have metas, and there's a lot of content that is a candidate for being fun as a part of the trains, and there's ways to make a lot more of this stuff evergreen. I mean, that would be my main mindset with all of this. Evergreen, as much as possible. How can we revitalize and re-encourage people to do shit like the Font of Rand, right? And I saw on the forums, by the way, someone has a post saying you should disable Wizard's Vault credit if someone's just used a TP to a friend. Now that was quite fascinating to me as an idea, because no one in the community is gonna go for that. They're gonna get really annoyed about that. But I think the guy is speaking about something very real. What he was trying to do was stop people from skipping jumping puzzles, and I do think the game's lost a little something with that. There's a very tricky conversation to have with stuff like this, when it's like, if it's possible to skip something in the game, people will do it, even though they would have a better experience if they didn't skip it. And there's always this very trite argument people come back with and say, well, just choose not to do it. But that's a real dead end of a conversation. There are many ways you can improve your experience all over the game, but because it is an inconvenience to you, people will not do it, right? People are their own worst enemies, and it's a game studio's job to be paternalistic about this stuff and to close those loopholes for you. It really is. I know it sounds like you should just expect people to be mature enough to create their own on-it rules and limit themselves and have their own good experience, and if they don't do it, then that means they don't want it bad enough, so whatever. It's very easy to imagine the rational consumer. Oh, what the hell is that? There's a joke about being the rational consumer. Oh, I think that's an Office thing, isn't it? Anyway, it's a very smarmy argument to say, oh, people should just do that, and if they don't, then clearly the market doesn't care for that. But I'm not actually a believer in that. I believe that ArenaNet's job is to put the guardrails up, and it is to... Because the thing that's difficult, I think, that we all have to understand is if you set up that honor rule for yourself, if you're like me, right, and you're sitting in game every day with the TPs to a friend right here in your inventory, it is so easy. Look at, ready? Here's that. I'm going to do my weekly right now. I'm going to do it. Here we go. Here we go. I'm doing it. Engaging content. And I'm done. Well, no, I'm not done. I have to step back a little bit. There you go. I'm done. I just got weekly Specs Lab. And it's like, that's so easy and so smooth. You know, there's something very unsatisfying for me to deliberately opt out, not just once, but all the time, to specifically opt out of that and do this, come to this waypoint, sail over that. You may as well ask me, well, why not mount right now, right? Why did you get on the skimmer? Why did you use the skimmer skill 2? Right? If you're looking for a really immersive, slow experience and all that, right? Go as slow as possible. And then I come all the way here, and I love Specs Lab. I love the visuals here. This is honestly one of my favorite jumping puzzles because this happens to be one with the cool moving platforms and stuff, right? Or turning on and off platforms. Oh, and I'm a little bit late here. We might have fucked this up. I love Specs Lab, but to do this, knowing I could be skipping it right now, there is a level of dissatisfaction that has been injected into this experience that will push me out of it ultimately. If I was doing this knowing I had no other choice, I would be fully satisfied by the experience. I'd think, yeah, I'm having an authentic, cool, jumping puzzle experience. I'm playing the game as fast and efficiently as I can, and I'm engaging with it in a meaningful way. There are no backdoors. There are no sneaky little routes. And I'm having fun the whole time because there's not that, you know, lingering dissatisfaction in the back. And I think to just say, oh, just set up your own honor rules is not a correct answer. And by the way, this is true when it comes to a lot of different shit. You can talk about like how raids are currently more engaging if you only do them with 7 players instead of 10, or dungeons became better if you're duoing them, and so on and so on and so on. You know, people are trying to make sure that they're trying to have the best experience be the one that people are encouraged to do. That's what a lot of game development is. I think it's a fair thing to talk about. Oh, wow. The game took mercy on us there. And so, yeah, this guy on the forum is trying to solve that problem, and I think he's just going to get bodied. I think the community is just going to say to him, no, fuck you, I want to use my TPs to a friend, you know? And I don't know. So I don't know whether he's got the right solution to it, personally. I think... I don't know. Stuff like that often tends to be tricky as well, because they actually monetize the TP to a friend and stuff. I don't know what you guys think about that one, but... yeah, this is the sort of thing that's my focus as well. It's like, I want all this content to be evergreen. I want it to feel like I'm doing all the jumping puzzles, that they all have a chance to show up. All the metas as well. You know, like the Font of Rand I mentioned just now. When was the last time you guys did the Font of Rand? Should we go do it? I haven't done this in 7 years, maybe? More? When have you last seen me do a video with the Font of Rand in the footage? We could go over here. We've got to capture the upper and the lower. There's a player here. That makes me so happy. They talked on the stream as well about how this announcement brought more new people to the game than even releasing on Steam did. Now that's pretty sick. Oh no, no. I think they said since they released on Steam. Isn't that right? They had like a 40% jump in the user base, and a bunch of people come back. You know, which the likelihood is a lot of you guys listening to me right now will be in that position too. This is why the Font of Rand collection item is so pricey. And there's lots of cool stuff like this. You know, I think about like, you know, I'll always love Steel Eye Span. Steel Eye Span. The meta down here, never really, no, not there. Where was it? Further south. This character's never been there. I don't know. I believe in stuff like that, but I kind of believe in like big system approaches and like a dedicated look at big formal ideas. I don't know how that fits into something that's got to be bundled with a billion QOL ideas. They only have 18 months. They're going to be moving on to the Xbox quickly. So this whole big core tier overhaul thing, I don't think we're going to... I'm already lowering my expectations. I don't see a world in which they can do a lot of radical stuff. I think it's going to be cleanups, shit like that. I don't know. This is weird because the bars are lowering, but that's progress. Oh no, that's just them retaking it. I think we're done already. I think the pool already exists. Get the little icon up there. Yeah, the pool is there. Let's watch the vista here as well. God, I need water. You're downloading it right now as I speak. Yeah, there you go. What about deleting waypoints from Corteria? No, see, I think, look, there are two things we can talk about. There are good ideas, and then there are ideas the community doesn't want, and they're not the same. Would Corteria feel a bit bigger and more immersive and stuff with more broken waypoints? Probably, but I don't think it's. I don't think they'll remove those. I don't think people would accept it. I think we do have to consider the fact that some players do not have. Question is as well, what player? Oh my fuck! Oh. I think we stood on the trapdoor there, right as the Shadow Blade hit us. There was a guy there on a Raptor running through. That was kind of the dream there, by the way. 2 targets to bounce the knives across. So yeah, we killed this guy, and you go into the icy room. When he dies, he explodes. You go in, and then you grab the stalagmite, and you break the chain, and it's cool, isn't it? But this never comes up on the weeklies. Anyway, I'm not going to do it because I want to get back to the thing. But yeah, so I don't know. Oh, I never actually managed to finish answering your question, did you, the Bird's Den? Sorry, the Bird's Den said, I really hope we can get the actual use of the Hall of Monuments again with the little statues. And it's not just an achievement ping. Would you be fine with it? Yeah, I said I'd eat the slop, didn't I? I don't know. Yes, I would be fine. It's not ideal, though. Having statues would be the best thing. Having actual statues and actual monuments and things that you actually build up, yeah, that would be epic. That's what I would want more than anything else. Will ArenaNet do it? Do they have the time for it? I don't know. Hopefully. Speaking of which, here's the moment. Yeah, well, hold on. So yeah, they're gonna. Oh no, let's listen to them. Christ. Initially, right? Yep. And then we've also done a lot of work on it since then. And so I think we could probably spend an entire year just focused on the core game. But unfortunately, just because of how things work and the fact that we're going chronologically, is going to be the first release that we're going to do. We're actually going to break the core game out into 2 releases, though, just to give ourselves a little bit more time. And so the first release will be a bit more focused on core game systems. And then the second release will be focused more on core game open world content and story content. And then we'll go into... So systems first, and then open world content and story content. So what do we mean by a core game system and system? You know what I really wanted? Actually, I'll let you guys guess in chat or in the YouTube comments. You can guess if you like. What did WoodenPotatoes want for the systems patch next year? What did he want? What was that guy banging on and on and on about? Sorry, I'm fighting a bull here right now. And now I feel like there's not really any space for it, weirdly enough. But there's a thing that I wanted for this game that I thought would be fantastic and is like the thing at the moment. Achievement UI rework? No, that's not it. That's not at the top of my list. Yeah, there you go. Guild missions, guild stuff. Yeah, I really wanted to see guild missions come into the vault. So you had guild objectives, and it was integrated with the Astral Acclaim, and the missions were handled through there, and they go back and they improve the bounties, and they improve the races, and maybe add a new race here and there, and they improve the challenges, which have been power crept and are not challenges anymore. Bring back the guild stuff, right? The guild stuff's really good, and it just got left to rot. You know, look at commendations. Like, I'll tell you guys, my great. I have a lot of regrets doing this. You know what my great regret was for a long time, and I'm really sorry to any spuds out there that are listening. For what, 4 years or something, spuds were doing guild missions every week. I wasn't running them. I barely showed up. I showed up to maybe 7 of them the entire time. It was very rare for me to show up because I didn't have anything I wanted for the commendations. I never had any motivation for it. But they were dedicated. They kept going. They kept the community there. They built it together. They were fucking awesome. And I just let that shit die. And I feel terrible about that. But on the other hand, I tried to forgive myself a little bit just based on the fact that guild missions are shit. They were boring. We'd seen them all. They weren't diverse enough. And I didn't have... The rewards were not enough to interest me. The rewards weren't enough to interest me. And I'm trying to get every mini in the game. And that's the big gate. So I have to say, you know, not just to sort of alleviate my own guilt a little bit with guild missions, but the reality is I think that it could go a long way to bring those back. I'd love to see that come back for Spud. I'd love to actually be there. Guild missions are big. They're big parts of community building, and having a community is a big part of why an MMO survives and doesn't. And so, yes, I would love to see that in the roll into Guild Wars 3. That would be sick. Is it on the table? Well, let's just listen to what Grouch just said there. Systems in the first patch. I think that counts, right? Guild stuff totally does count. And that's also where I would put, like, quick play for dungeons. But my dream of it was, you know, a little bit deeper than that. I was thinking of them spending a whole year just on that for their, you know, their systems patch. I don't know. I'm very unclear about what size of changes to expect. On the one hand, I'm a cynic. You know, I'm very Debbie Downer about it on the one hand. On the other hand, I'm a bit Janet about it. I mean, let's get Janet in. Hey, Janet, how's it going? Wow. How are you doing, Janet? Oh, I'm so excited. All right, what do you think, Janet? Janet thinks, hey, feature packs were the best fucking updates they did. And they got feature packs in there pretty well, and they were very expansive. I mean, Christ. If this is a year of feature packs coming up, effectively, now that's thrilling, isn't it? So maybe we should sit with Janet this time. Do you know who I picture, by the way, when I do the Debbie Downer Janet thing? Do you know who I picture? You know that meme of that girl? It's the same girl, but in one of them she's a brunette and she's looking like wearing glasses and she looks miserable, and in the other she's like, I think she's got rainbow hair and she's smiling and doing like a double thumbs up or something. It's the same woman, but she looks like completely different people. That's what I think. WP, how long do you think it took them to turn a raw story from 5-man to solo? Same effort? Good question. I don't know. I've not got sausage. I don't know. Moping Merle. Moping Merle? It's moaning Merle. Actually... Guild missions can always be the main feature of the next expansion. That's true. Look, just because they don't do it... Again, we've got to get away from this idea that this is the end of the road. It's not. It's not the same person. Their friends sitting in the car. Oh, really? Oh, that loses all of its impact if it's not the same person. If it's not the same person, then it's barely a meme. They're just friends, are they, though? That's nice. Okay. Oh, I thought the whole thing was that they were the same person. Well, there you go. You think Dungeons and Raid should have a story mode version? Well, okay, look, there are certain subjects I'm sick and tired of going on about, so let's talk about Raid. Hi guys, this is WoodenPotatoes. 15 years later, I'm here to talk today about Guild Wars 3. Should there be story mode raids? I'll tell you what, if you find me doing a video, if that is a video I'm doing, alright, in June 2033, okay? Just, not 33, 2040, alright? If I'm doing a video on that in June 2040, someone just put me out of my misery, please. Please, link me this moment, this timestamp here and say WP. Come on, bro. Get out of there. Alright. Yeah, so anyway. Sorry about all these gaps and stalls. It's because I'm juggling a million fucking windows here.
To each of our expansions from kind of there on, which will also include all the associated Living World releases as well. And those are probably...
See, Living World as well, man. I don't know. Living World, they could do lots of fun things. There's lots of ways I'd love to see Living World get integrated into core systems. And the trains and the metas and things. Don't know.
Probably spaced probably about I'd say probably about a month and a half to 2 months apart from each other. And kind of in between all of that, there'll be a very similar structure to what we talked about with the Return to campaign, where each week there's kind of like new achievements. And
the other thing is, how long are they waiting to get feedback? Presumably they have their own ideas. Are they just asking you on the forums to make you feel like you're in the loop? Surely they've already got their own goals and they're like working on it. Wizards Vault objectives these days to actually go and accomplish in those areas of the game. So we'll have a lot more information out later this year. I'm personally very excited about it. A lot of really cool stuff going on in there. You'll also be able to earn rewards in Guild Wars 2 as well as Guild Wars 3. See, he's talking about being excited about it. There's a lot going on in there. They must already they're already working on it.
Which I think is pretty exciting as well. And so even if you're not super interested in playing Guild Wars 3, which I know everyone is, but if you if you just wanted to earn nothing but Guild Wars 2 rewards, like that's totally an option for you as well. So there's I think a lot of
so you hear that? Even just that little that's okay too, right? Like again, that's the point. It's not going away. It's another game with its own distinct play style and platforms. Play Guild Wars 2 if you want.
Learnings from the original system that we're putting into place for Hollow Monuments 2.0.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hopefully all stuff, that's really exciting for everybody. We're really curious to hear your feedback in particular, but I think, this is a uniquely ArenaNet thing. There's not a lot of games that do this. We're going to, I think, talk more later today. There's a few questions that go more into kind of like our franchise strategy, and so we'll talk more about that later. But
I think a lot of games do it, don't they, now? Live service games, long-term games. I mean, you're always hammering away at the foundation. You're always propping up. You're always changing things. I mean, taking a year and a half off dedicated to... it depends on the scope of how big these changes are, I guess, before we can really see that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, here it is. Oh! Do you guys want to see Debbie on the stream?
like, this is something that we very intentionally do to align with our pillars of feeling like your time is respected and your investment is respected. And we really want to do the next iteration of Hall of Monuments right. So it feels like, just like with each of our games, there's innovation and evolution. We want to apply the same process to Hall of Monuments here.
They're about to release these.
Ready for me to go to the next one?
Let's do it. All right.
Okay. Is Guild Wars Reforged going to be connected to the new Hall of Monuments system?
All right. Well, we've said lots of happy, exciting news. This is one where I have to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer, at least.
Oh my god. Yeah, Guild Wars Reforged is not coming to the Hall of Monuments 2.0. But I do have a question for the live chat. Did they specify that God walking amongst mere mortals is going to be? It's just that we have to chain all the way along. You take Guild Wars, you get God walking amongst mere mortals in GW1, and then you go to Guild Wars 2's God walking amongst mere mortals, and then you can put that in the Hall of Monuments for Guild Wars 3's God walking amongst mere mortals, right? Is that what they... Did they confirm that? That will be the one thing that goes through all three. Because I doubt, like... it depends how they do it, but, like, are they going to allow us to dedicate skins again? If they allow us to dedicate skins, do you pull them out directly on the other side? Probably not. Because you got questions like the Fiery Dragon Sword, right? You've got questions of certain Ranger pets. Colin said he will mention that and see what they can do. Yeah, I do remember on the stream they talked about it, but did they not commit to a plan? He wants to port it, but it's uncertain. I see. By the way, I just resisted the instinct to say daisy chain there instead of just chain. What's the difference between chaining things together and daisy chaining them? Why do I always say daisy chain? Do you guys even know what a daisy chain is? A daisy chain is when you go to the field and you pick daisies, and then you use your thumb to cut a little hole in the stem, and then you slide another daisy into it, and then you can chain them together, and you can make yourself a nice little necklace or bracelet or whatever. It's a daisy chain. But yeah, and that's fine. I don't really care that they're not doing a Hall of Monuments update for Reforged that goes directly to Guild Wars 3. I actually think it's cooler if you have to chain through and you have to be like a true veteran and you've played the whole way. I think that's more explain. Yeah, I think I've explained that on stream before as well. I think I have. I don't know when. At some point, though. I'm glad you think that because I think that's true. Guild Wars 3's title should be mere mortals walking amongst gods. Oh, hire this man. Give them your CV, Aid Kit. Wow, that's really good. Or okay, maybe not that. Aid Kit, you're close. You're not. I think what that title is though is that's for like beating the new story. When you beat the Guild Wars 3 story, you know, like how in Guild Wars 2 you beat the story and you become the champion of all, right? I think in Guild Wars 3 when you beat the story, you get that. You get mere mortals walking amongst gods. But actual Guam is still a GW1 thing, something like that. Or they get some quotes from Anchorman 2. I don't know, that came out. That was a thing. That was one of those dire comedy sequels of the past decade. Which comedy sequel for like an old 2000s comedy has actually landed and stuck the landing? Not many, right? Anyway, yeah, so they were pretty good about that, and they were just open. Yeah, it's not going to be a thing. Moving on. Can Guild Wars 2 support physics-based rendering (PBR) without affecting performance? It's difficult, but they say they've learned from the various changes they've made over the years. For example, DirectX 11, new shaders, the VOE lighting changes. The big challenge is getting assets developed outside of the PBR pipeline to work with assets made inside it. Performance optimizations for Guild Wars 2 are a separate and parallel effort. This year has seen new monitoring and diagnostics deployed to help improve server-side latency. They've been adding more granularity to shader options so people can opt out of new changes. I thought it was kind of weird that they started talking about network lag when the only thing they've really announced is the physics-based rendering, which I can't assume is doing anything over the network. It would be crazy if that does anything over the network. It seemed like a bit of a sidebar, I guess. The big thing they focused on in the stream at this moment was talking about putting the old assets next to the new, which, yeah, sure, that sounds okay, but they talked about it like that was the big issue. But I have to say, you know, ArenaNet, you're already there. You already live in a world where the base game, right, aspects of the base game look a lot worse than aspects of your newer content. Like the whole, like what would a good term for it be? The color grading, the LUT in POF is very different, right? You have much darker shadows in POF. You have much more vibrant colors. You can feel it. Like POF immediately looks a lot more modern and a lot. And Guild Wars 1 had the same thing. Prophecies doesn't look anything like Eye of the North. Other game, well, okay, they look similar, right? But there's a clear difference. You can clearly see, oh, that's the older content and this is the newer content. It's not just a Guild Wars thing. Most games have that. And does anyone review them poorly for that? Does anyone freak out? And, you know, like people will accept that, right? You don't have to worry about that too much, I don't think. I think people will just be mind blown that it looks way better than the other stuff. The only world in which I see this as a bit of an issue is with wearable fashion, where you, let's imagine that, you know, the metal on my knee pads works really beautifully with the lighting, but on my shoulder pad it looks old or something, right? So now it looks like, I get that could seem a bit weird. So when it comes to Fashion Wars 2, yeah. But overall, I don't know. I just think, fuck it. Yeah, let's go. Let's see as much stuff as we possibly can. Not to mention, I remember talking about this years and years and years ago as a bit of a showcase for where the graphics can be really weird. I remember standing right here in the Temple of Cormyr and shooting a little video showing how like shiny certain skins look when wielded, standing here, like the scarab skins and stuff. But you take them to a core map and they look totally different. Guild Wars 2 is already just fairly inconsistent, so I don't know. I just want to see the graphics continue to improve. The real question they were asked was, can our systems actually support this, or will they chug? Will they struggle? And they didn't really get round to that. They said, look, you'll have the option. There'll be a bit of granularity. I think what Grouch should have said is, look, time marches forward, the hardware marches forward, and you know, maybe a GTX 980, which is what we originally released as our big supporting graphics card. Maybe that's not going to be good enough in 2030. We can't promise otherwise. Yes, there will probably be a slightly higher bar for performance, but at the same time, we're not trying to bully anyone out. We appreciate that the RAM apocalypse has just happened, and you know, consumer electronics are in a tricky place at the moment. I actually heard, sidebar guys, on a bunch of like fan and aftermarket cooler companies and LED companies and shit and case companies, isn't everything going belly up at the moment because no one's building PCs? So all these extra peripherals and stuff, they have no one to sell their products to, so they're like dying. Like the whole fucking thing is shriveling up at the moment. It's crazy. It's a very scary time for consumer electronics. So yeah, you know, Grouch can mention that and say, look, we're going to try to make sure that we hit a good bar. But yeah, and just to say, by the way, I'm very excited about this. Very excited. Let's watch this again for a second here. I'm going to mute it. This is the trailer, obviously. I really think the skins and the armor and stuff look amazing in this trailer. I haven't really been a Fashion Wars 2 guy throughout the years of Guild Wars 2. You guys know that. We all know it. One reason is because I've played an Asura. And I don't think I'm going to make that mistake again next time, by the way. I don't think I'll be a Fursura. I really don't. But one thing that will really bring me into it is just if the skins look really realistic, and the armor doesn't clip, and there's no aliasing on the armor, and look, the leather looks good. Everything doesn't look like beeswax. I mean, to be honest, that is a little bit beeswaxy there, a little bit. But I think that shit's cool, and that will bring me in. I do fashion. I do a bit of fashion. All right, fair enough. We do a bit. No, not Rip List. List will still be there. We'll still do Guild Wars 2 content and coverage. But you know, if Guild Wars 2 can end up looking like this, look at that. And I know this is the case because I end up feeling this way when I play other games that look really good and don't look like The Sims or whatever. All right, what else we got? I think we're coming to a close now, really, for a lot of this, but we'll see. What went wrong with the Desert Borderlands, and how will the new one be different? Yeah, this was quite insightful, actually. World War is hard to develop for due to having lots of different kinds of players. Oh, it was really weird, by the way, hearing them talk about World War as a classic thing. I've always hated that term. I've always loathed it. I've always really disliked any time I've heard in interviews and stuff people talking about World War. But to me, it wasn't like an old term. It was just what they called it. And he mentioned World War, and I was like, yeah, okay, World versus World. And then he was like, oh, by the way, that's what all the old people call it. We have a bunch of new devs now that have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. And I was like, oh, God, really? It's hard to develop for due to having lots of different kinds of players, roamers, coordinated and uncoordinated groups, zergers. The Desert Borderlands was too big, hard to find fights. It was too vertical, too hard to navigate, bad objectives. See, I don't think the objectives were necessarily bad, but I always thought that they were kind of fun. But yeah, the size was always a problem for people. And then they added all those extra systems so that you could port around and move quickly. The Desert Borderland was designed with what's best for gliding first, rather than what's best for world versus world. And it couldn't be redone once launched. We want to release a grey box map for new map, and do live betas for player feedback, just like what they did with PvP Rush. Which is fine. I think we all anticipated that that's what they were going to do. I think it's a good plan. It lets them see how people flow through the map. And what this guy hasn't talked about here that was very good in their discussion was fear. You know that condition that you can apply to people in World vs. World, and you can get them to run off of the edge of cliffs, and you can make a video about it? No. I mean development fear. Dun dun dun. They talked at length about how you can't be, but basically how you can't get bullied by the audience into being too scared to do anything. And I've talked about this with World vs. World in the past. World vs. World is the most like fly off the handle. And by the way, this is saying something. But World vs. World is very fucking particular about what they want and how they want it. And they get grumpy really quick. I've thrown out casual statements in the past where I've said shit like, World vs. World simultaneously wants all the updates and they want no updates. And, people will clip it and everyone will say, yeah, that's exactly how it is. And that is the case. World vs. World players want everything to be the same, but also to get new stuff. And ArenaNet are like stuck. It's like, well, what the fuck do we do kind of thing. And they've been scared of the community. They're too scared. You've got to do stuff. You got to play. You got to, design, develop. Don't be afraid. And that I think is true across the board, And they talked about that, and I thought that was really, really good to hear. I thought that was very heartening. I think doing a grey box as a first release is a smart plan, and hopefully they just don't get too bogged down in the weeds. Mostly, I just want a different map with a different theme, but I'm a very casual World vs. Wilder, and I make no bones about it. I also want to see some, maybe there's been a classic idea of special events where they hot swap EBG for the Edge of the Mists. That's always a controversial one, but I like that idea for brief periods. WP don't fall into the Goomba fallacy. That is a bit of a Goomba fallacy, isn't it? You're right. That is a bit of a Goomba fallacy. And that's the thing. If you view the whole community as a monolith, ththere are just World vs. Worlders, there's such a trap immediately, because obviously they're not. There's so many different people within there. And that's what they talked about. It was good. It was a good section of the interview. Very, very savvy. Fun part. Not interview. Live stream. Q&A. How will ArenaNet ensure older maps and metas remain populated during the transition? This was a boring question. We already knew the answer to this. This was kind of a boring question as well, because there have been new players, the 40% increase, we already talked about that. Saturday was the best day for new player acquisition since the Steam launch. Guild Wars 2 is a big game, they're not going anywhere, so the metas should stay populated. But this may fold into a little bit of what they're doing next year. Is mobile a long-term focus? Mobile is the right choice for Reforged, but not Guild Wars 2. Guys, by the time mobiles can run GW2, I mean, we're really living in some kind of Star Trek utopia at that point, aren't we? Guild Wars 2 on console or mobile? No to both. Yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah, that was actually kind of news. Guild Wars 2 on console was being... And they did confirm that they've looked into that in the past. As far back as 2009, guys. And I have a vague recollection of pre-release. There was some job posting or something about console back when. I remember some people were expecting it on those early announcements. It's funny how old some of these conversations are. Yeah, but Guild Wars 3 is being designed to be played on console. That's a part of what makes it different. It's got its own platform. Why 3 games across 3 different parts of the timeline? ArenaNet games start from addressing player concerns problems. MMOs have been stagnant, so they thought it was time to solve a different problem. Guild Wars 1, 2, and 3 are very different MMO experiences. Oh yeah, this was good as well. This guy hasn't put it in his summary. But they talked about the term CORPG, and and we talked about that a little bit. And they just openly said, yeah, look, we tried to call it a CORPG. People have told it's an MMO, so it's an MMO. Guild Wars 1 is an MMO as far as they're concerned. We can all just drop the CORPG thing. I like hearing that. Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 were MMOs for people who hate MMOs. Guild Wars 2 is following that lineage. Yeah, and that was one of the big lines. I think it was in the manifesto video, wasn't it? If you love MMOs, play Guild Wars 2. If you hate MMOs, play Guild Wars 2. I'm so curious if they'll do a Guild Wars 3 manifesto. What do you guys think? They could do it. I remember the manifesto for Guild Wars 2 coming out was actually just retreading a bunch of stuff those of us who were already in the community already knew. But it was a big moment for outsiders. And I feel like they could do the same for Guild Wars 3, i.e. we get a bunch of blog posts about different problems that they want to fix for players, and then they sum it all up in a manifesto. Even if the manifesto doesn't seem to have aged very well over the years in certain aspects, and there will be unfavorable comparisons due to that. Fallen Monuments is the unique ecosystem that connects them. It drove Guild Wars 2 players to Guild Wars 1, and they hope that it will drive Guild Wars 3 back to 2 as well. Being different points in time allows it to tell stories that can't be told. Colin, over and over and over in this, kept using the term timeline. Instead of time period, or time frame, or just time. He kept saying timeline. I don't know if this is me being a weird, picky, hyperfixated, obsessive nerd here. What do we think? Did he... Chat? What do you think? Was there a moment where he said it's all the same timeline? They confirmed that Vlox isn't going to change the timeline. Did that come up? Yes, he's using the terms interchangeably, you're right. There wasn't a moment that he seemed to just be using the word timeline. And look, it's an easy enough thing to do, right? I mean, Christ, look at the fucking basic mistakes I make. I was talking about Abaddon. I got the fucking Abaddon story completely flipped in my head. Well, I didn't. I just said it wrong. It's just sometimes you just say shit wrong. You think it's sussy? Saying it for me. Yeah, it's for the lore community. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. It's just I was talking in Discord a little bit during that period, and I wondered if there was a moment he clarified. And if he had clarified, you guys would be spamming me about it right now, which you're not, so... Yeah. So anyway, they joke that Timey will likely not be in Guild Wars 3. Guild Wars 2 has many story threads left open. I found it funny that he mentioned Timey there, because Timey has been like persona non grata for a long time in the story now. Guild Wars 2 has many story threads left open. Guild Wars 2 is Magitech, has sci-fi elements, unique aesthetics with the Char and Asura was a big jump. This new one has almost no technology. The Guild Wars 3. And by the way, I didn't really buy this. The dwarves can have gunpowder and shit. There can still... Look, this is a very good area of the setting because the dwarves are there. The dwarves have got machinery and gunpowder and stuff. So they can pick up a bit of that slack. You won't see the Char rocking muskets and shit anymore, but still. How will Guild Wars 2 look 5 years from now? Final question. They hope the Guild Wars 2 can feel like people's home. They want to close story threads, set up new stories, similar to what they're already doing now. And look at the end of last year's stuff with Janthea Wilds, guys. We know this. Next expansion development starts likely next year, but news will only come after the launch of Guild Wars 3. They've been quiet. Colin confirms that Guild Wars 4 will be a roller beetle racing game. I like the idea of them doing an auto runner or something on mobile. I've been by the way, just in terms of how their studio is structured and stuff, I've been an advocate for them making smaller experiences if they really want to. I would totally accept that, a spin-off roller beetle game for funsies. Why not? Just to test the waters of mobile. You know, just don't invest too much money into these things and get them out the door. Some other titbits. I refuse to use the word tidbits. That's American puritanicalism. It's titbits, everybody's. New Hall of Monuments coming later this year. The modernization effort will resemble the Living World return end from 2021. The Season 1 return. And they're investigating skill lag, yeah, because they put that stuff in the background. Yeah, this is so exciting. This guy says it's rework of story bosses, plural. That's not right, is it? It's not bosses. They're not going to do, like, Blightghast the Plaguebringer on Claw Island. It's only Zaitan, isn't it? They didn't confirm Balthazar. I mean, look, sign me up. I'd love to see a Balthazar strike as well, and I'd love to see a Zaitan strike. I was wondering if they'd confirm that Zaitan's going to be a strike. I'm sure he will. But they didn't actually confirm that in here. A racing game is a legal requirement for the 4th game. Yeah, what, like Crash Team Racing or... What else was there? Mario Kart? Was that the 4th in the Mario series? Did that come after Mario 3, Mario Kart? Even when they mentioned Zaitan, it sounded smaller than what they're making out. That's true. I want to play that bit. The Zaitan conversation was very interesting. They talked about how the engine couldn't even do moving things until the last couple of days before release, which was fascinating for me as a bit of a Guild Wars nerd, like having played the personal story a lot. It explains a lot of why we never got the airships flying out of Lion's Arch. We never got them flying around the Straits of Devastation. We never got story instances. Whenever story instances were set on airships, they were static. And it's because they only just got the technology right at the end before launch. And when they got that technology, you bet your ass they put everything into a raw story mode for it. I remember, you guys want to hear something maybe juicy, because I was in the alpha, all right? I remember it was really, really, really fucking late in the day that they were doing the alpha, but the closed door, quiet tests for dungeons. It was really late in the day. Like when we were finally able to test Ara Explorable, it was like a matter of weeks before release, and they had no time to iterate or change any of it, really. I hope that they give themselves more time for the end game stuff on Guild Wars 3, I can tell you that. So where was it he was talking about Zaitan? I don't really know. Mistakes with the borderland. Will old maps be populated? Mobile. Will Guild Wars 3 ever cover? Why are there 3 different games? What does Guild Wars 2 look like in 15 years? That's not where they talked. Does anyone have a timestamp for me when he was talking about Zaitan, the Zaitan thing? Jack and Daxter did a racing thing? I mean, that might just be... Didn't Insomniac and Naughty Dog just do that? It was one of the earlier questions. I thought it was fairly early. The Guild Wars 2 engine segment, you think? So right around now?
Today, the answer is, for now, no. Right now, we are...
No, that's Guild Wars 1 in the Hall of Monuments. Here you go. Let's just try this here.
Is performance, and what does an upgrade like this mean for the performance for the game long term?
This is, guys, if we don't have an exact timestamp, we're going to be scrubbing through an hour and a half. It's a lot. So I don't know, maybe someone can hunt that out. It was near the start of the Hall of Monuments section. He was talking about the content releases for the Hall of Monuments. You really think it was here? We just listened to this.
Ready for me to go to the next one?
Let's do it. All right.
Okay.
Again, I love the format of this fucking thing. I really thought they did such a good job with this. Perfectly casual. They were very relaxed on camera.
Is Guild Wars Reforged going to be connected to the new Hall of Monuments system?
All right. Well, we've said lots of happy, exciting news. This is one where I have to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer, at least today. The answer is, for now, no. Right now, we are focusing on connecting Guild Wars 2 to Guild Wars 3 via Hall of Monuments. Guild Wars 1 already connects to Guild Wars 2 via Hall of Monuments. And the Guild Wars Reforged team, and in particular, our very small ArenaNet team and our partners at 2 Weeks Games, right now they're focused on 2 major initiatives. They're going to ship this game on a brand new platform that ArenaNet's never been on before. That is a huge focus for them. And this summer we're
this Hall of Monuments section?
What I'd say is that, I'm going to offer a little bit of insight here, but there's going to be a lot more information about Hall of Monuments to come later on this year, right? So we just freshly announced this. There's not a lot of detail out there yet. There'll be a more formal big announcement later on this year. But I think from a design standpoint, we want to try to find a way to do both effectively, right? Like, I think it's really important to us that we find ways to honor the time and investment that players have put into Guild.
Transcript suggestions suggest it's at the 20-minute mark.
In Heart of Thorns and Pathfire and even other expansions that we'd love to go back and retool in a very similar way. And so I think there's going to be a lot of really exciting stuff, honestly. It's not just going to be all bug fixing.
Zaitan's a great one. Of like, I don't know if we've ever shared this story. Why not? We're here. The tech, the capacity to actually have the tech to do like the moving platform.
I've just realised Colin's shirt. That's the Commando shirt, right? Was that? Because that's ARENA. That's what they did with the Commandos. Did they do that in conjunction with the Commandos only? That's amazing if that is. Oh, he joked at one point that the show was falling apart, so he may as well have not even worn trousers, which I thought was really funny, but I thought it was especially funny because if you actually followed the logic of that along, the specific framing that they picked here would have left his crotch in the shot anyway. So it just would have been such a comedy of errors. I was joking that the whole studio, all the set in the background should have fallen apart. I don't know what this crop is all about, by the way. Why have, like, what, 40% of the screen just be plasterable?
Forums and some of the stuff that happens in the Zaitan fight. It didn't come online until, like, 3 weeks before the game released, 2 weeks before the game released. And so by the time the tech was fully functional and we were all sweating bullets, like, hey, is this ever even, like, we're going to ship the game and it doesn't even work. And the tech came online just at the very end. And so we basically had, 2 weeks before launch to try to throw together something that made that an experience that would work. I don't think it's anything close to what any of us had hoped that it would be. I was happy that it even functioned by the time the game shipped.
And by the way, what he just said, oh, I don't know if we've talked about this before. I'm 99.99% sure they did on a forum post.
And we're pretty terrified right to the last possible minute. And so I think it's going to be really fun. Anything like that in retrospect, it's going to be impossible for the team to ever make it live up to what people in their minds now are imagining it could turn into. Like, we still have to work within the constraints of the model and the animation and the stuff that's in that level. But whatever we can do to make it better is going to be worth it compared to, hey, we just barely got it out the door that it was when the game shipped.
I think if we...
Yeah, that's an interesting point, by the way. So, like, in terms of a tower phase where he falls on the floor and you go and you fight him physically, I mean, maybe they could do it. I think the thing is, right, it's not a normal skeleton or whatever. It's not a normal model that can actually just autonomously walk around. It's a structure type enemy. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, so it's going to be like Keep Construct, right? What other structure type enemies are there that are actual strike missions and actual raids? Is KC the only one? I'm sure I must be blanking on another one. You got not Keep Construct, Conjured Amalgamate. No, wait, which one's which? Fuck. You guys get what I mean. The start of the Mystic Forge raid. So they are going to be stuck with that. So I don't know. Guys, it could be so cool. We've got to do a segment on this. Because don't forget, it's got like the red arm phase and everything. They could do like a normal mode version of it where the red arm doesn't come out. But if you do the challenge mode or the legendary mode, you get the red arm phase. So one's a construct. Yeah, that's a very good point. There you go. HTC or just Harvest Temple. There's a construct there. So I think it will be workable. It's going to be weird, though, because you can't... I mean, HT is brilliant because it shows what it's like to fight Zaitan. Zaitan's a lot smaller at HT, though. Zaitan's way smaller at HT. In the actual story mode, he's fucking massive and far away on that tower. There's a lot of fun things to talk. We should seriously do like a paper design of that and do a little video. I'm going to put a little note for that. We're going to do a video on that, guys. That's just going to be fun. Paper design for Zaitan. I'll give you guys my little proposal of what they could do, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, it's pretty interesting knowing that they didn't have the tech to have any moving stuff until right at the end. It really shows how that affected a lot of the core game. Not that I expect that's all going to get changed now in this upcoming patch, but well, let's let him finish speaking.
You just reduce the amount of time you spend on a cannon. Yeah, I think it'd be good. my one app.
See, the funny thing is, they did do an update already, which kind of forces the cannon more than you used to. Also, I think that when it first came out, weren't you spamming skill 1 on the cannon, and now you spam skill 2? Isn't that right? They definitely did an update where they added like the little Zaitan head worm things. Anka uses those as well in End of Dragons. I love seeing those come back. They'd need to add checkpoints. Well, I think that they should just do it. The story mode ends. Well, I don't know. They should follow the format they follow with the other strike missions that are integrated into the plot. Sorry, raids. We call them raids now. Can you easily replay it or our story mode right now? No, and that's another thing, by the way. I think that's a. This is so obvious. It's kind of boring, to be honest. I think when we talk about system updates, adding replay to the core game is big. And there's a version of WoodenPotatoes that would be giddy about that, because you know what I've got on my account, like all over my account, I have different characters. Like Issa should still be in this situation. I have different characters paused at no, not Issa. Or did I finish the game on her in the end? I have different characters paused at different parts of the story. Why am I in a squad? Oh, the jumping puzzle squad. Just so that I can enter the missions. I have like in my footage. Oh, we could do that. Do you guys want to go into my archive? Oh, I don't know though. I have. Never mind. We'll do it on the next one. You know, I have characters set at victory or death just so that I can enter and record the footage, because it's so annoying to get back and play those old things. Having an actual replay is a no-brainer. That does also then move us onto this idea of a race re-roller, but I don't know whether that is something they'll ever do. They always said that would be very difficult and that they might not be able to do it. And they probably looked very hard into that because they could have sold that on the gem store. So yeah. This guy here, we got a Debbie here. Why is anybody actually hyped for a story boss rework? Once you've done it, you're unlikely to do it again. It's not like a meta. Story bosses are typically repurposed as strikes, but the thing is... Oh, sorry, I wasn't actually showing you. This guy says, why is anyone actually hyped for a story boss rework? And then these guys say that they get repurposed as strikes. But they're not typically... I don't think it's fair to say typically yet. It's fair to say some in the modern era have been. There are a lot of candidates for amazing boss fights that could be strikes. Even just within core. I just gave you another one, Blightghast. By the way, I want to give you guys another thing. Do you guys want a cool little lore titbit? A little WoodenPotatoes theory? Not sure I can get a whole video out of this, so enjoy this. And this kind of does tie into our buddy Zaitan. I think you guys will really enjoy this. Yeah, I'm going to make you rewatch the whole thing again.
We all have our own reasons for coming to this vast frontier. But for our guild, we who protect this land, one reason stands above all others.
Zaitan persona reveal.
Our
It's like a fucking sad-looking man in a dragon costume.
You feel it too.
Made out of like bin bags and stuff.
Rise. Wonder at the astonishing power that shapes this land of awe. At the great spirits to whom we are bound. At the gods who hold dominion.
Gonna watch this 1,000 more times. I know. I wonder at what point people are gonna be like, okay, WP, stop it now.
We cannot guarantee your comfort or even your safety. But if you yearn for horizons unexplored, for fellowship and purpose, for a cause worth dying for, to you, we can promise.
Okay, there we go. We did the whole trailer just to get the banner. I need to take a screenshot of that and actually just have that in my files so that we don't have to keep doing this. Right, what am I about to talk about? Does anyone have any guesses? Come on. Something about this banner that we've only sort of done a drive-by on recently. Related to our buddy... Related to... That's too big of a hint. You're all yearning. Okay, this is a pretty big hint here, but it's related to Ara story mode. This land of awe. The 4 races? No. But yeah, they're interesting enough. Yes, the big theory that the hooded one is a 4th race, and they haven't revealed it yet, and it's probably Safari. Spirits, Axolotl. Yeah, Joe Williams. Joe Williams. Take a round of applause. Holy shit, I had a donation earlier and I missed it. $10 from Shibarito. I'm so sorry, Shibarito. WP, related to this, can we please create a petition to make them do Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 3 Hollow Moments? Sorry, dude. I'm not your guy for that. I don't think it matters that much. I really don't. If you can chain through the 3, then that's fine. Look, I have a lot of things I'd love to see for Guild Wars 1 and the Reforged initiative, and I would rather they prioritize a lot of other things than that. Yeah, the Sun and Moon. The Sun and Moon. Why is that interesting? Ogravos, the Moon Death. I thought the other guy was called Sun. It's not though, is it? It's Horagos the Soulbreaker. Is he the other one? Or is it Fafafnin the Heartslayer? Anyway, what about these guys? I've always been interested in these guys. Where do they come from? What's the lore? Why did they get that name? Did the Orions name them these things? What's it in reference to? It's obviously just a bad, edgy badassery right now. But you fight these guys right before Zaitan. They're like the final guys that you fight before Zaitan. You fight 2 of them at once. I'm pretty sure it's him and Horagos. They've always been really interesting. And now we're going to Ore, and the Sun and Moon are a big prominent thing. I don't know. Just something small to think about. Might be interesting. Right, I think that's about it, guys. I think that's about it. I do have one more thing, though. So let me just throw it over to chat. If you guys want to keep talking about Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 3, and Guild Wars 1, let me know right now. I'll bounce off of you guys in the live chat anytime. But there is one more thing I want to talk about, and it's completely off topic. I just think it'll be interesting, that's all. And for those of you who can't handle anything non-Guild Wars, I guess I'll see you next time for the interview. Hopefully. Is there a book about Guild Wars lore, or is it just a wiki? There are 3 novels, but they're not about the lore. They're not like primers on the lore. It's not like Eorzea Encyclopedia. Which, by the way, ArenaNet, Eorzea Encyclopedia, look that shit up. We should do that for Guild Wars. So good. Coin collection? No. I am very, very keen on that, by the way. If I can get it set up so that I can actually noodle with the big bank bags, you will probably start seeing videos, live action videos from me. I'm not saying I'll change the anonymity thing, but there'll be a lot of my hands and a lot of my arms, and there'll be a lot of, it will be, but that will probably be going up on WoodenPotatoes too. So, and we're a while away from that, but that's something, yeah. Then he says, look up the shield, Skull and Hattie. Look up the shield, Skull and Hattie. Skull and Hattie? Oh, Skull and Hattie with an O. Skull and Hattie. It's a shield. We got it from Cantha. It's the sun and the moon. With 2 Warclaw-looking spirits, entwined. Very interesting. My immediate question, though, is this referential to something IRL? Here's the concept art by Marco Dotti. This is EOD, so this is a bit old, I think, for it to initially have been made as a Guild Wars 3 thing. Unless, was it late EOD? Was it Gem Store EOD? It's pretty good, though, isn't it? It's just generic Norse lore, is it? Is that right? Did we get any flavor text? It is crisp concept art. I totally agree with that. It's just Norse stuff. This one is different. They're like awake. They're like empowered. You see that? They have like energy. There's actually a lot of detail back there, isn't there? It's funny the caption says melee weapons, but we have a bow on there. Sounds like GW3 started around EOD and Secrets of the Obscure. I think that's a very good time period too. Yeah, definitely. But I also think that it's very, very likely that Guild Wars 3 has existed in some form, some pre-production. There's been concepts for Guild Wars 3 probably since before they even brought Guild Wars 2 out. I think for years and years and years and years and years they would have had stuff kicking around with this. And whatever this final ultimate thing that they landed on, the newest iteration, I think, yeah, there was probably a renewed interest in it around then. But it's one of those things, I think, where, like, it will go way back. Is there a way to properly read the Guild Wars lore without downloading the games? Yes, the wiki is excellent. This community's wiki contributors are absolutely fantastic. They have good lore pages. They have PDFs of all of the manuals. They have timelines. They have everything. Or you can, you can check my channel. I've covered it all. It's just might be a bit hard to figure out where each video is and everything. I think my playlists are pretty good. Didn't the devs talk about making older story encounters, plural, more balanced and in the vein of current encounters? Did they? Loomis? Meaning more than Zaitan? Are you talking about what in this recent interview? I don't remember that. I don't remember them talking about that. So far, we've only heard them talking about Zaitan. Am I wrong?
It was basically the just stand there firing cannons mission.
Yeah, I guess just one last reminder.
The thing is, with the Zaitan mission as well, you can see where the cutscenes cut, where it was like, okay, there's supposed to be a phase here where we defend the cannon, or we fire the cannon, or we go to the lower decks, or we go to the upper decks. Oh, yeah, thanks, Cottage. Yeah, don't forget, guys, join Discord. It's been really fun lately. Rewatching my explorable paths, you have some good points about the Bloodstone Seer path and Randall, assuming the gods didn't know about Zaitan. Yeah, see, all that stuff, we could do like a replay and go through that stuff. It could be fun. Right, okay, so I'm going to move on, guys. Here's the other thing I want to do. I'm going to throw up a comment from one of you. We were talking about immortality the other day and long life. Oh, my persona. And I got this comment here from Robert John Metcalf. Metcalf? WP, the stuff you were saying about passive acceptance of aging and death sounds like Nick Bostom's fable of the Dragon Tyrant. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's worth looking into if you're interested in that line of thinking. Fuck it. Let's read the fable of the Dragon Tyrant. It's not that long. 2002. Shall we see what we got here? This has literally got nothing to do with anything. I just think this will be fun. This will be interesting, right? So we'll see. And if you guys want to drop comments and stuff about Guild Wars, I'll get back to them after this is over. So this is from the Journal of Medical Ethics, 2005? Published in the Journal of Evolution and Technology in 2002. Sorry, first version, 2001. From Oxford University, Nick Bostrom. So should we see? And hold on, before we go into this, we should stand somewhere where the music will be good. I mean, the music's pretty good here. I would love to go to Cormier's library, but I don't know what state it would be in right now. What would Cormier's library be like right now? Should we just see? What happens if I just randomly walk up to the portal after having done all the side events and stuff? I haven't done this for a long time. That library is a great example, by the way, of POF looking far better than like anything that was in core. The library was insane. This expansion has some really high highlights. The brand looked great in this. The distillation looked great in this. Fuck, man, POF. It's going to be full of demons. It is, isn't it? But wait, didn't I clear the demons out? Is there a book reading emote? There is, actually. There should be a little emote, a little potato reading emote for anyone who's got a membership. There should be. This fucking place. You guys remember going up to get that mastery insight up there? That was lots of fun. Shame I only ever did it once on the account. So what happens if I just walk here? Does it let me in? Reopen portal. This isn't here in Guild Wars 3, guys. There's no Lord Odrin yet. No portals to the mists. It's called the Dark Library. That doesn't bode well. Do we have demons? There are Atche. Oh, by the way, another thing that I'm really interested about is Mingus. You know, we look at the gods. Surely Menzies is around. There is a /read book in game. Yeah, there you go. Look, you guys have got it. There's a, what is that? That's Tato lore, isn't it? I think. Because I don't really know where to stand. That's. Ah, what? All right, we're just going to stand up here. We don't want to be too near the water because we don't want running water. I wanted it to be all daytime and golden and beautiful. What about that hidden room? Whatever. What's it called? What's the in-game read book? There we go. We have our book. All right, let's read the Tale of the Dragon Tyrant. Oopsie. Once upon a time, the planet was tyrannized by a giant dragon. The dragon stood taller than the largest cathedral, and it was covered with thick black scales. Its red eyes glowed with hate, and from its terrible jaws flowed an incessant stream of evil-smelling, yellowish-green slime. It demanded from humankind a blood-curdling tribute. To satisfy its enormous appetite, 10,000 men and women had to be delivered every evening at the onset of the dark to the foot of the mountain where the dragon tyrant lived. Sometimes the dragon would devour these unfortunate souls upon arrival. Sometimes, again, it would lock them up in the mountain where they would wither away for months or years before eventually being consumed. I watched a movie of that. What was that, like, animated movie fairly recently about a girl that gets thrown down in the pit by the dragon, and I don't really remember anything else. I don't think it really captured me. The misery inflicted by the dragon tyrant was incalculable. In addition to the 10,000 who were gruesomely slaughtered each day, there were the mothers, fathers, wives, husbands, children, and friends that were left behind to grieve the loss of their departed loved ones. Some people tried to fight the dragon, but whether they were brave or foolish was difficult to say. Priests and magicians called down curses to no avail. Warriors, armed with roaring courage and the best weapons the smiths could produce, attacked it, but were incinerated by its fire before coming close enough to strike. Chemists concocted toxic brews and tricked the dragon into swallowing them, but the only apparent effect was to further stimulate its appetite. The dragon's claws and jaws and fire were so effective, its scaly armor so impregnable, and its whole nature so robust as to make it invincible to any human assault. Seeing that defeating the tyrant was impossible, humans had no choice but to obey its commands and paid the grisly tribute. The fatalities selected were always elders. Although senior people were as vigorous and healthy as the young, and sometimes wiser, the thinking was that they had at least already enjoyed a few decades of life. The wealthy might gain a brief reprieve by bribing the press gangs that came to fetch them, but by constitutional law, nobody, not even the king himself, could put off their turn indefinitely. I see how we're getting to the idea of being able to solve for longer life. I don't know where we're going fully, but spiritual men sought to comfort those who were afraid of being eaten by the dragon, which included almost everyone, although many denied it in public, by promising another life after death, a life that would be free from the dragon's scourge. Other orators argued that the dragon has its place in the natural order and a moral right to be fed. They said that it was a part of the very meaning of being human to end up in the dragon's stomach. Others still maintained that the dragon was good for the human species because it kept the population size down. To what extent these arguments convinced the worried souls is not known. Most people tried to cope by not thinking about the grim end that awaited them. Okay, yeah, we're being very allegorical to the idea of death via old age. We've just substituted it for death via dragon. Okay. For many centuries, This desperate state of affairs continued. Nobody kept count any longer of the cumulative death toll, nor of the number of tears shed by the bereft. Expectations had gradually adjusted, and the dragon tyrant had become a fact of life. In view of the evident futility of resistance, attempts to kill the dragon had ceased. Instead, efforts now focused on placating it. While the dragon would occasionally raid the cities, it was found that the punctual delivery to the mountain of its quota of life reduced the frequency of these incursions. Knowing that their turn to become dragon fodder was always impending, people began having children earlier and more often. It was not uncommon for a girl to be pregnant by her 16th birthday. Couples often spawned a dozen children. The human population was thus kept from shrinking, and the dragon was kept from going hungry. Over the course of these centuries, the dragon, being well fed, slowly but steadily grew bigger. It had become almost as large as the mountain on which it lived, and its appetite had increased proportionately. 10,000 human bodies were no longer enough to fill its belly. It now demanded 80,000 to be delivered to the foot of the mountain every evening at the onset of dark. Doesn't the comparison break down a little bit here? Or do we mean as the human population on Earth spikes, so do the number of people dying? So I guess it's the same, right? Of old age. What occupied the king's mind more than the deaths and the dragon itself was the logistics of collecting and transporting so many people to the mountain every day. This was not an easy task. To facilitate the process, the king had a railway track constructed, 2 straight lines of glistening steel leading up to the dragon's abode. Every 20 minutes, a train would arrive at the mountain terminal, crammed with people, and would return empty. Oh gosh. On moonlit nights, we're getting very Nazi here, really, aren't we? On moonlit nights, the passengers travelling on this train, if there had been windows for them to stick their heads out of, would have been able to see in front of them. Sorry, let me read that again. I fucking hate the way I read that. On moonlit nights, the passengers travelling on this train, if there had been windows for them to stick their heads out of, would have been able to see in front of them the double silhouette of the dragon and the mountain, and 2 glowing red eyes, like the beams from a pair of giant lighthouses, pointing the way to annihilation. Servants were employed by the king in large numbers to administer the tribute. There were registrars who kept track of whose turn it was to be sent. There were people collectors who would be dispatched in special carts to fetch the designated people. Often travelling at breakneck speed, they would rush their cargo either to a railway station or directly to the mountain. There were clerks who administered the pensions paid to the decimated families who were no longer able to support themselves. There were comforters who would travel with the doomed on their way to the dragon, trying to ease their anguish with spirits and drugs. A whole industry. There was, moreover, a cadre of dragonologists who studied how these logistic processes could be made more efficient. Some dragonologists also conducted studies on the dragon's physiology and behavior, and collected samples. It shed scales, the slime that drooled from its jaws, its lost teeth, and its excrements, which was specked with fragments of human bone. All these items were painstakingly annotated and archived. The more the beast was understood, the more the general perception of its invincibility was confirmed. Its black scales, in particular, were harder than any material known to man, and there seemed no way to make as much as a scratch in its armor. To finance all these activities, the king levied heavy taxes on his people. Dragon-related expenditures, already accounting for 1/7 of the economy, were growing even faster than the dragon itself. Oh, we're talking about the triple lock, guys. Are we gonna learn how to break the triple lock? How to escape the grey vote. Humanity is a curious species. Every once in a while, somebody gets a good idea. Others copy the idea, adding it to their own improvements. Over time, many wondrous tools and systems are developed. Some of these devices, calculators, thermometers, microscopes, and the glass vials that the chemists use to boil and distill liquids, serve to make it easier to generate and try out new ideas, including ideas that expedite the process of idea generation. Thus, the great wheel of invention, which had turned at an almost imperceptibly slow pace in the older ages, gradually began to accelerate. Sages predicted that a day would come when the technology would enable humans to fly and do many other astonishing things. One of the sages, who was held in high esteem by some of the other sages, but whose eccentric manners had made him a social outcast and recluse, went so far as to predict that technology would eventually make it possible to build a contraption that could kill the dragon tyrant. The king's scholars, however, dismissed these ideas. They said that humans were far too heavy to fly, and in any case lacked feathers. And as for the impossible notion that the dragon tyrant could be killed, history books recounted hundreds of attempts to do just that, not one of which had been successful. "We all know that this man has had some irresponsible ideas," a scholar of letters wrote in his obituary of the reclusive sage, who had by then been sent off to be devoured by the beast whose demise he had foretold. "But his writings were quite entertaining, and perhaps we should be grateful to the dragon for making possible the interesting genre of dragon-bashing literature, which reveals so much about the culture of angst." Meanwhile, the wheel of invention kept turning. Mere decades later, humans did fly, and accomplished many other astonishing things. A few iconoclastic dragonologists began arguing for a new attack on the dragon tyrant. Killing the dragon would not be easy, they said, but if some material could be invented that was harder than the dragon's armor, and if this material could be fashioned into some kind of projectile, then maybe the feat would be possible. At first, the iconoclasts' ideas were rejected by their dragonologist peers on grounds that no known material was harder than dragon scales. But after working on the problem for many years, one of the iconoclasts succeeded in demonstrating that a dragon scale could be pierced by an object made of a certain composite material. Many dragonologists who had previously been skeptical now joined the iconoclasts. Engineers calculated that a huge projectile could be made of this material and launch with sufficient force to penetrate the dragon's armor. However, the manufacture of the needed quantity of the composite material would be expensive. A group of several eminent engineers and dragonologists sent a petition to the king asking for funding to build the anti-dragon projectile. At time when the petition was sent, the king was preoccupied with leading his army into a war against a tiger. Okay. The tiger had killed a farmer and subsequently disappeared into the jungle. There was widespread fear in the countryside that the tiger might come out and strike again. The king had the jungle surrounded and ordered his troops to begin slashing their way through it. At the conclusion of the campaign, the king could announce that all 163 tigers in the jungle, including presumably the murderous one, had been hunted down and killed. During the tumult of the war, however, the petition had been lost or forgotten. The petitioners therefore sent another appeal. This time they received a reply from one of the king's secretaries, saying that the king would consider their request after he was done reviewing the annual Dragon Administration budget. This year's budget was the largest to date and included funding for a new railway track to the mountain. A second track was deemed necessary, as the original track could no longer support the increasing traffic. The tribute demanded by the Dragon Tyrant had increased to 100,000 human beings to be delivered to the foot of the mountain every evening at the onset of dark. When the budget was finally approved, however, reports were coming from a remote part of the country that a village was suffering from a rattlesnake infestation. The king had to leave urgently to mobilize his army and ride off to defeat this new threat. The anti-dragonists' appeal was filed away in a dusty cabinet in the castle basement. The anti-dragonists met again to decide what was to be done. The debate was animated and continued long into the night. It was almost daybreak when they finally resolved to take the matter to the people. Over the following weeks, they travelled around the country, gave public lectures, and explained their proposal to anyone who would listen. At first, people were skeptical. They had been taught in school that the Dragon Tyrant was invincible and that the sacrifices it demanded had to be accepted as a fact of life. Yet when they learnt about the new composite material and about the designs for the projectile, many became intrigued. In increasing numbers, citizens flocked to the anti-dragonist lectures. activists started organising public rallies in support for the proposal. When the king read about these meetings in the newspaper, he summoned his advisors and he asked them what they thought about it. They informed him about the petitions that had been sent, but told him that the anti-dragonists were troublemakers whose teachings were causing public unrest. It was much better for the social order, they said, that the people accepted the inevitability of the dragon tyrant's tribute. The dragon administration provided many jobs that would be lost if the dragon was slaughtered. There was no known social good coming from the conquest of the dragon. In any case, the king's coffers were currently nearly empty after the 2 military campaigns, and the funding set aside for the second railway line. The king, who was at the time enjoying a great popularity for having vanquished the rattlesnake infestation, listened to his advisors' arguments, but worried that he might lose some of his popular support if he was seen to ignore the anti-dragonist petition. He therefore decided to hold an open hearing. Leading dragonologists, ministers of the state, and interested members of the public were invited to attend. The meeting took place on the darkest day of the year, just before the Christmas holidays, in the largest hall of the royal castle. The hall was packed to the last seat, and people were crowding in the aisles. The mood was charged with an earnest intensity normally reserved for pivotal wartime sessions. After the king had welcomed everyone, he gave the floor to the leading scientist behind the anti-dragonist proposal, a woman with a serious, almost stern expression on her face. She proceeded to explain in clear language how the proposed device would work and how the requisite amount of the composite material could be manufactured. Given the requested amount of funding, it should be possible to complete the work in 15 to 20 years. With an even greater amount of funding, it might be possible to do it as little as 12 years. However, there could be no absolute guarantee that it would work. The crowd followed her presentation intently. Next to speak was the king's chief advisor for morality, a man with a booming voice that easily filled the auditorium. Oh, here we go, guys. I get to do a booming voice.
Let us grant that this woman is correct.
A stentorian voice.
About the science, and the project is technologically possible, although I don't think that has actually been proven. Now she desires that we get rid of the dragon. Presumably, she thinks she's got the right not to be chewed up by the dragon. How willful and presumptuous. The finitude of human life is a blessing for every individual, whether he knows it or not. Getting rid of the dragon, which might seem like such a convenient thing to do, would be to undermine our human dignity. The preoccupation with killing the dragon will deflect us from realizing more fully the aspirations to which our lives naturally point, from living well rather than merely staying alive. It is debasing, yes, debasing, for a person to want to continue his or her mediocre life for as long as possible without worrying about some of the higher questions about what life is to be used for. But I tell you, the nature of the dragon is to eat humans, and our own species-specified nature is truly and nobly fulfilled only by getting eaten by it. The audience listened respectfully to this highly decorated speaker. The phrases were so eloquent that it was hard to resist the feeling that some deep thoughts must lurk behind them, although nobody could quite grasp what they were. Surely words coming from such a distinguished appointee of the king must have profound substance. The speaker next in line was a spiritual sage who was widely respected for his kindness and gentleness, as well as for his devotion. And as he strode to the podium, a small boy yelled out from the audience, "The dragon is bad!" The boy's parents turned bright red and began hushing and scolding the child. But the sage said, "Let the boy speak. He is probably wiser than an old fool like me." I can't actually do an old man's voice, guys, because these guys never get old. At first, the boy was too scared and confused to move. But when he saw the genuinely friendly smile on the sage's face and the outreached hand, he obediently took it and followed the sage up to the podium. "Now, there's a brave little man," said the sage. "Are you afraid of the dragon?" "I want my granny back," said the boy.
Did the dragon take your granny away? Yes, the boy said, tears welling up in his large, frightened eyes. Granny promised that she would teach me how to bake gingerbread cookies for Christmas. She said that we would make a little house out of gingerbread and little gingerbread men that would live in it. Then those people in white clothes came and they took Granny away to the dragon. The dragon is bad and it eats people. I want my granny back. At this point, the child was crying so hard that the sage had to return him to his parents. There were several other speakers that evening, but the child's simple testimony had punctured the rhetorical balloon that the king's ministers had tried to inflate. The people were backing the anti-dragonists. And by the end of the evening, even the king had come to recognize the reason and the humanity of their cause. In his closing statement, he simply said, "Let's do it." Oh, where is this going? As the news spread, celebrations erupted in the streets. Those who had been campaigning for the anti-dragonists toasted each other and drank to the future of humanity. Ooh. Sorry, I need to drink here. The next morning, 1 billion people woke up and realized that their turn to be sent to the dragon would come before the projectile would be completed. A tipping point was reached. Whereas before, active support for the anti-dragonist cause had been limited to a small group of visionaries, it now became the #1 priority and concern on everybody's mind. The abstract notion of the general will took on an almost tangible intensity and concreteness. Mass rallies raised money for the projectile project and urged the king to increase the level of state support. The king responded to these appeals. In his New Year's address, he announced that he would pass an extra appropriations bill to support the project at a high level of funding. Additionally, he would sell off his summer castle and some of his land and make a large personal donation. I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of freeing the world from the ancient scourge of the dragon tyrant. Thus started a great technological race against time. The concept of an anti-dragon projectile was simple, but to make it a reality required solutions to 1,000 smaller technical problems, each of which required dozens of time-consuming steps and missteps. Test missiles were fired, but fell dead on the ground or flew off in the wrong direction. In one tragic accident, a wayward missile landed on a hospital and killed several hundred patients and staff. But there was now a real seriousness of purpose, and the tests continued even as the corpses were being dug out from the debris. Despite almost unlimited funding and round-the-clock work by the technicians, the king's deadline could not be met. The decade concluded, and the dragon was still alive and well. But the effort was getting closer. A prototype missile had been successfully test-fired. Production of the core. As always of late, she looked pale and worn from her long working hours. This evening, however, the king also thought he could detect a ray of relief and satisfaction in her eyes. She told him that the missile had been deployed, the core had been loaded, everything had been triple-checked, they were ready to launch, and would the king give his final go-ahead? The king sat down in an armchair and closed his eyes. He was thinking hard. By launching the projectile tonight, 1 week early, 700,000 people would be saved. Yet if something went wrong, if it missed its target and it hit the mountain instead, it would be a disaster. A new core would have to be constructed from scratch, and the project would likely be set back some 4 years. He sat there silently for almost an hour. Just as the scientist had become convinced that he had fallen asleep, he opened his eyes and said in a firm voice, "No. I want you to go right back to the lab. I want you to check and then recheck everything again." The scientist could not help a sigh escaping her, but she nodded and left. The last day of the year was cold and overcast, but there was no wind, which meant good launch conditions. The sun was setting, technicians were scuttling around making the final adjustments and giving everything one last check. The king and his closest advisors were observing from a platform close to the launch pad. Further away, behind a fence, large numbers of the public had assembled to witness the great event. A large clock was showing the countdown. 50 minutes to go. An advisor tapped the king on the shoulder and drew his attention to the fence. There was some tumult. Somebody had apparently jumped the fence and was running towards the platform where the king sat. Security quickly caught up with him. He was handcuffed and taken away. The king turned his attention back to the launch pad and to the mountain in the background. In front of it, he could see the dark, slumped profile of the dragon. It was eating. Some 20 minutes later, the king was surprised to see the handcuffed man reappearing a short distance from the platform. His nose was bleeding, and he was accompanied by 2 security guards. The man appeared to be in a frenzied state. When he spotted the king, he began shouting at the top of his lungs, "The last train! The last train! Stop the last train!" "Who is this man?" said the king. "His face seems familiar, but I cannot quite place him. What does he want? Let him come up." The young man was a junior clerk in the Ministry of Transportation, and the reason for his frenzy was that he had discovered his father was on the last train to the mountain. The king had ordered the train traffic to continue, fearing that any disruption might cause the dragon to stir and leave the open field in front of the mountain, where it now spent most of its time. The young man begged the king to issue a recall order for the last train, which was due to arrive at the mountain terminal 5 minutes before time zero. "I cannot do it," said the king. "I cannot take the risk." "But the trains frequently run 5 minutes late. The dragon won't notice, please." The young man was kneeling before the king, imploring him to save his father's life and the lives of the other 1,000 passengers on board that last train. The king looked down at the pleading, bloodied face of the young man, but he bit his lip and shook his head. The young man continued to wail even as the guards carried him off the platform. "Please! Stop the last train, please!" The king stood silent and motionless until, after a while, the wailing suddenly ceased. The king looked up and glanced over at the countdown clock. 5 minutes remaining. 4 minutes. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. The last technician left the launch pad. 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10. 9. 8. As a ball of fire enveloped the launch pad and the missile shot out, the spectators instinctively rose to the tips of their toes, and all eyes fixated at the front end of the white flame from the rocket's afterburners, headed towards the distant mountain. The masses, the king, the low and the high, the young and the old, it was as if at this moment they shared a single awareness, a single conscious experience, that white flame shooting into the dark, embodying the human spirit, its fear and its hope, striking at the heart of evil. The silhouette on the horizon tumbled and fell. Thousands of voices of pure joy rose from the assembled masses, joined seconds later by a deafening, drawn-out thud from the collapsing monster, as if the earth itself was drawing a sigh of relief. After centuries of oppression, humanity at last was free from the cruel tyranny of the dragon. The joy cry resolved into a jubilating chant. "Long live the king! Long live us all!" The king's advisors, like everybody that night, were as happy as children. They embraced each other and congratulated the king. "We did it! We did it!" But the king answered in a broken voice. "Yes, we did it. We killed the dragon today. But damn, why did we start so late? This could have been done 5, maybe 10 years ago. Millions of people wouldn't have had to die." The king stepped off the platform and walked to the young man in handcuffs, who was sitting on the ground. There he fell down on his knees. "Forgive me, oh my God, please forgive me." The rain started falling in large, heavy drops, turning the ground into mud, drenching the king's purple robes and dissolving the blood on the young man's face. "I am so very sorry about your father," said the king. "It's not your fault," replied the young man. "Do you remember 12 years ago in the castle? That crying little boy who wanted you to bring back his grandmother? That was me. I didn't realize then that you couldn't possibly do what I asked for. Today I wanted you to save my father, yet it was impossible to do that now without jeopardizing the launch. But you have saved my life, and my mother and my sister. How can we ever thank you enough for that?" "Listen to them," said the king, gesturing toward the crowds. "They are cheering me for what happened tonight. But the hero is you. You cried out. You rallied us against evil." The king signaled a guard to come and unlock the handcuffs. "Now go to your mother and sister. You and your family shall always be welcome at the court, and anything you wish for, if it be within my power, shall be granted." The young man left, and the royal entourage, huddling in the downpour, accumulated around their monarch, who was still kneeling in the mud. Amongst the fancy courtier, I was wondering when we get a word that I wouldn't know how to pronounce, which was becoming increasingly ruined by the rain. A bunch of powdered faces expressed a superposition of joy, relief, and discombobulation. So much had changed in the last hour. The right to an open future had been regained, a primordial fear had been abolished, and many a long-held assumption had been overturned. Unsure now about what was required of them in this unfamiliar situation, they stood there tentatively, as if probing whether the ground would still hold, exchanging glances and waiting for some kind of indication. Finally the king rose, wiping his hands on the sides of his pants. "Your Majesty, what do we do now?" ventured the most senior courtier. "My dear friends," said the king, "we have come a long way, yet our journey has only just begun. Our species is young on this planet. Today we are like children again. The future lies open before us. We shall go into this future and try to do better than we have done in the past. We have time now, time to get things right, time to grow up, to learn from our mistakes, time for the slow process of building a better world, and time to get settled in it. Tonight, let all the bells in the kingdom ring until midnight, in remembrance of our dead forebears, and then, after midnight, let us celebrate till the sun comes up. And in the coming days, I believe we have some reorganization to do." Finn. So that didn't really go where I thought it was going to go. I thought we were going to, not defeat the dragon, and we were going to make perhaps a more blunt point about... By the way, I think I got logged out of Guild Wars during that. How long was that? I was a little nervous. I was really going to fuck that reading up. Especially when we got to the countdown. Because, I can't edit if I flub anything. There you go, guys. That's like the defeat of Zaitan, isn't it? So what do we read the morality into this? That we shouldn't be cynical about medical innovations, and we shouldn't be cynical about, tackling the big topics like the inevitability of old age and death. And if we ever do fix it, we'll look at ourselves like mugs. We'll say, why the fuck did we always resist this? Is that the idea? Let's see what they think. Stories about aging have traditionally focused on the need for graceful accommodation. The recommended solution to diminishing vigor and impending death was resignation, coupled with an effort to achieve closure in practical affairs and personal relationships. Given that nothing could be done to prevent or retard aging, this focus made sense. Rather than fretting about the inevitable, one could aim for peace of mind. Oh my god, I don't have peace of mind. Why don't I have peace of mind? Because we're being attacked. No, we're not being attacked. Never mind. I do have peace of mind. Today we face a different situation. While we still lack effective and acceptable means for slowing the aging process, we can identify research directions that might lead to the development of such means in the foreseeable future. Deathist stories and ideologies which counsel passive acceptance are no longer harmless sources of consolation. They're fatal barriers to urgently needed action. Many distinguished technologists and scientists tell us that it will become possible to retard and eventually halt and reverse human senescence. At present, there is little agreement about the timescale or the specific means, nor is there a consensus that the goal is even achievable in principle. In relation to the fable, where aging is of course represented by the dragon, we are therefore at a stage somewhere in between that, at which the lone sage predicted the dragon's eventual demise, and that at which the iconoclast dragonologists convinced their peers by demonstrating a composite material that was harder than dragon scales. And what is this? This is stem cell technology that... This is CRISPR, is it? I don't know. What do we think? The ethical argument that the fable presents is simple. There are obvious and compelling moral reasons for the people in the fable to get rid of the dragon. Our situation with regard to human senescence is closely analogous and ethically isomorphic to the situation of the people in the fable with regard to their dragon. Therefore, we have compelling moral reasons to get rid of human senescence. The argument is not in favour of lifespan extension per se. Adding years of sickness and debility at the end of life would be pointless. Yeah, people often talk about the distinction between lifespan and health span. The argument is in favour of extending, as far as possible, the human health span. Yeah, there you go. By slowing, and you kind of get both for one a lot of the time, but not always. By slowing or halting the aging process, the human lifespan would be extended. Individuals would be able to regain healthy, vigorous, productive ages at which they would otherwise be dead. It doesn't matter that they raise the pension age to 95 if you're still you at 90. Do you know what I mean? If you're still at the gym, if you're still able to labour at 90. In addition to this general moral, or think sharply and orate and so on and so on and so on. In addition to this general moral, there are a number of more specific lessons. 1. A recurrent tragedy became a fact of life, a statistic. In the fable, people's expectations adapted to the existence of the dragon, to the extent that many became unable to perceive its badness. Aging, too, has become a mere fact of life, despite being the principal cause of an unfathomable amount of human suffering and death. Absolutely. 2. A static view of technology. People reasoned that it would never be possible to kill the dragon because all attempts had failed in the past. They failed to take into account the accelerated technological process. Is a similar mistake leading us to underestimate the chances of a cure for aging? 3. Administration became, and I guess I know the moral outrage is to hate him, but we've got to talk about AI with respect to mapping the full human genome and all that shit, right? Administration became its own purpose. 1/7 of the economy went to Dragon admin, which is also the fraction of its GDP that the US spends on healthcare. Dragon damage limitation became such an exclusive focus that it made people neglect the underlying cause. Instead of a massive publicly funded research program to halt aging, we spend almost all of our health budget on healthcare and on researching individual diseases. This one feels a little bit more naive, but I get what the fable is getting at there. The social good became detached from the good of the good for the people. The king's advisors worried about possible social problems that could be caused by the anti-dragonists. They said that no known social good would come from the demise of the dragon. Ultimately, however, social order exists for the benefit of the people, and it's generally good for people if their lives are saved. The lack of a sense of proportion. A tiger killed a farmer. A Roomba of rattlesnakes plagued a village. The king got rid of the tiger and the rattlesnakes and thereby did his people a service. Yeah, he was at fault because he got his priorities wrong. Hundreds of thousands of people were dying. Fine phrases and hollow rhetoric. The king's morality advisor spoke eloquently about human dignity and our species-defined nature in phrases lifted mostly verbatim from the advisor's contemporary equivalents. Yet the rhetoric was a smokescreen that hid rather than revealed moral reality. The boy's inarticulate but honest testimony, by contrast, points to the central fact of the case. The dragon's bad. It destroys people. This is also the basic truth about human senescence. Failure to appreciate the urgency. Until very late in the story, nobody fully realized what was at stake. Only as the king was staring into the bloodied face of the young pleading man does the extent of the tragedy sink in. Well, I don't know. I thought he deliberated quite carefully about that 700,000 in the last week. But okay. Searching for a cure to aging is not just a nice thing that we should perhaps one day get round to. It is an urgent, screaming moral imperative. The sooner we start a focused research program, the sooner we will get results. It matters if we get the cure in 25 years rather than 24. A population greater than that of Canada would die as a result. In this matter, time equals life. At a rate of approximately 70 lives per minute. With the meter ticking at such a furious rate, we should stop faffing about. And finally, number 8. And in the coming days, I believe we have some reorganization to do. The king and his people will face major challenges when they recover from their celebration. Their society has been so conditioned and deformed by the presence of the dragon that a frightening void now exists. They will have to work creatively, both on an individual and societal level, to develop conditions that will keep lives flourishing dynamically and this is where we talk about legislation regarding reproduction, right? And things get complex. Flourishingly dynamic and meaningful beyond the accustomed 70 years and 10. Luckily, the human spirit is good at adapting. Another issue is that they may eventually confront is overpopulation. Many people will have to learn to have children later and less frequently. Maybe they can find ways to sustain a larger population by using more efficient technology. Maybe they will one day develop spaceships and begin to colonize the cosmos. You have to think about retribution, punishment, rehabilitation when it comes to the greatest of sins, murder as well, in a world where a death was not foregone at all. We can leave for now the long-sided Fable people to grapple with these new challenges, and we can try to make some progress in our own adventure. They talk about calorie restriction here a bit. So there you go, the Fable of the Dragon King. That was a nice little diversion, wasn't it? From Nick Bostrom back in 2002. Thank you for that link and that idea. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my reading. Will kleptomania artists have to face the Dragon King? Do our MMO characters age? No. I mean, oh god. Think about the characters that are never going to make it, right, to Guild Wars 3, because you know, you think this game's been out 14 years. Guild Wars 1's been out 19 years. There is going to be more than a fair share of people who had accounts, who had characters that have now passed off. All right, there you go, guys. I couldn't read chat during any of that. Was that cringy and terrible? There's Boot saying it's ham-fisted. Yeah, I don't think it was trying to be a little bit, right? But again, I think I think the style is to be quite a blunt instrument. I don't think it's supposed to be particularly concealed or deep. I think they're just trying to articulate. The reading was good. The message shit. The stream was dead for 4 minutes. It cut out in the middle. Oh, you are joking. I don't have any dropped frames. Did it? It was for 40 minutes. No. Well, I hope the VOD has it all. Where did it jump from? I have to reread. No, I'm tired, and it's 1 AM. It was around 1 minute. Oh, that sucks, though. I thought that was a good little section. I mean, I wasn't going to spin that into a video, but I thought that was a fun little section. All right, guys, there you go. There's my stream for today. Listen, tomorrow I still do have things going on, but I'm going to try and edit this interview. I'm going to try and get the draft up. So tomorrow you could see a very cool, if I do say so myself, Reforged interview. And once that's gone out, I'll be able to talk more about Reforged in the coming stuff. Either that, or I'll submit the draft, and then there'll be a bit of a wait around with it, and I'll do another live stream, and we'll actually tackle a topic. I want to talk about monetization. I want to talk about the gem store. I want to talk about the sub fee thing, because there was a lot of talk about that before in the comments. And I don't know, just any other big topics. Basically, guys, I'm also thinking about just calling these Guild Wars 3 daily. If I can find it in myself to do even a quick 20-minute thing, it might be fun, right? That's some Concrete Duck content. It is. If I could click a button and put on Concrete Ducks, I probably would. 24 hours tomorrow. No. All right, there you have it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Keep the Guild Wars 3, 2, 1 commentary coming, and I'll have some more stuff to pick at. Thanks again to Benji for the incredible intro and outro, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Well, not outro. The outro's the same, but the 2 intro pieces. Thanks, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for the $15 between the Bird's Den and Shiburito. See you next time.